Chapter 1366. Inside the small house, the two of them were still chatting. That means both Bolly and Buttercup are on the temporal oasis, growing stronger using the order method while heading toward a certain point in the future. Buttercup asked. That's right, Gu Qingshan replied. You returned to the time when the war between the Eternal Abyss and the Wraith Realm had just begun, then came to Void City in order to do something to the Wraith Realm. Buttercup asked. That's right, there's no need to hide it from you. After all, it's already happened, and that temporal oasis is also moving forward in the river of time. No one could change it, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup appeared worried. Humph. So the Wraith Realm bastards want to go against the entire 900 million world layers. Bolly and Meow would definitely fight against them. But the Wraith Realm is too powerful. This is going to be troublesome, Gu Qingshan nodded. He was very relaxed in front of Buttercup, not telling a single lie. She had even left a life-saving imprint on me. And she really did save me once, so there's no need to hide these things. Buttercup thought for a bit, then turned to evaluate Gu Qingshan and asked, You've grown quite quickly, but to go against the Wraith Realm. I forgot to ask you, what identity are you using to stay in Void City? I'm a hitman in the Hitman Guild, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup scoffed. Humph, so you're from the Hitman Guild? That's a notorious organization. Gu Qingshan was speechless. Your ominous demon tower's reputation isn't any better either. Seemingly knowing what he was thinking, Buttercup continued. Unfortunately, you're a pure human. Otherwise, I would have made you an assistant instructor in our ominous demon tower. That way, the Wraith Realm people wouldn't dare to mess with you. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, How strong are you right now? There's not much to say. I have to attend classes every day and take care of my child, so I'm only a bit stronger than you, Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan was still speechless. But this has nothing to do with strength. It's because the Wraith Realm is afraid of offending us, Buttercup continued. Gu Qingshan became even more curious and asked, Why? Our Tower Master is the famous Lord Devourer of the Void, while our Vice Tower Master has a few fragments of the Wraith Realm, Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan was startled. She murmured, Could it be they're threatening me with this? That's right. If the people of the Wraith Realm become disobedient, our Tower Master would consume those fragments of the world. That way, even if he were to show mercy one day and pull those fragments out, those fragments would still be stained with the power of eternal corruption, unable to be removed, Buttercup explained. What would happen if the Wraith Realm fused with such a world fragment? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup pridefully replied. The entire Wraith Realm is now reeking of the stench of feces, causing plagues and diseases to appear all over the world. It wouldn't be until 100 million years later that this situation would gradually disappear. Gu Qingshan was speechless again. This kind of restraining method is truly miraculous and shocking. From the Wraith Realm's perspective, a world filled with the stench of feces wants to conquer the entire samsara. Isn't that ridiculous? Who would listen to them? No wonder the old man in the bar couldn't do anything but apologize to Buttercup as soon as he saw her. Gu Qingshan placed her hand on her chest, sensing the mark. Now that I think about it, I've never been officially killed before. An out-of-body experience is a fake death. When I went to the Age of Old, Lin had been hiding with the 3 coins, ready to act at any moment to save me. The reason why I was able to survive so many battles until the very end was because death had stimulated all of my potential. This is the true shortcut for a warrior to quickly improve. Buttercup, I have a favor to ask of you. What is it? Please take this mark away, Gu Qingshan said. HM, you don't want such a useful item? Buttercup asked in surprise. That's right, it was fine when I didn't know about its use before, but now that I do from now on, whenever I fight someone, I'll always think about how I still have my life, so I'll lose all interest in fighting. Buttercup tilted her head to look at him for a while, then smiled. I didn't think you'd have some guts. She raised her hand, summoning a glowing butterfly between her fingers. Go. Tell Baizu that my family is here. I want to give that to my family. Ask him if it's okay. The butterfly flapped its wings and quickly disappeared into the void of space. A few moments later, a block of wood appeared in front of Buttercup. A hoarse voice resounded from the block of wood. Your family? Is it your man? No, Buttercup replied. The voice loosened up a bit and gently spoke. If it's your family, then give him a certificate, no problem. Furthermore, Buttercup, I love you. My love is like the stars in the sky. Get lost, Buttercup, cut the voice off. As far as the stars are from me, you'll be as far away from me as you are from me. She then slapped the block of wood, causing the other party to disappear without a trace. All right, seems like I can give you a certificate. Buttercup casually took out a scroll, put it on the table, and pushed it in front of Gu Shan. I'll take the mark, but you keep this. What is this? Gu Shan wiped his cold sweat and asked. He looked at the scroll, only to see a line of text written in the void language, frowny face, ominous demon tower, certificate of trouble. There was also a small line of text below to explain frowny face, the holder of this certificate is a student or family member of the ominous demon tower. If they cause any trouble in your place, please take care of them and provide them with warm encouragement. Reading the certificate, Gu Shan slowly realized what it meant. That's asking for a beating. But if this is a genuine attitude, then it's very telling. Just how strong did he have to be to get the other party to give him warm encouragement after causing trouble? Wait a minute, did your Vice Tower Master keep a few fragments of every organization's world? He asked. You're very smart, Buttercup praised him. But some worlds are complete. There are no such things as fragments, Gu Shan replied. We will secretly take a few fragments from a complete world's origin and bring them back, Buttercup replied. The ominous demon tower's strength shouldn't be limited to just eating world fragments, and doing that sort of thing isn't enough to convince the masses, Gu Shan seriously said. Buttercup straightened her body and spoke with a serious expression. Of course, we are the top-level demons of the space vortex. Each of us was an existence that slaughtered countless worlds in the past. However, most of us are already old and have children, so we decided to band together and set up a shill in Void City. No, the ominous demon tower. You're not fighting anymore? Gu Shan asked. I'm already old, so my temper has gotten a lot better. I don't go around making enemies anymore. As long as the apocalypse isn't around, I'll just do some business and live a good life, Buttercup replied. She put her hand on Gu Shan's chest, took out a talisman, and put it into her sleeve. I'll take this talisman back and put on my son. This way, I won't have to worry so much when he goes to the space vortex for practical lessons. Gu Shan's gaze flickered a bit. Lines of glowing text appeared in the void of space on the war god UI. Frowny face, you've lost her talisman, as well as a chance to revive after death. Gu Shan silently sensed it for a bit, then muttered to herself, Hichem, this feels right. Buttercup looked at him deeply, then muttered, At least I didn't misjudge you. Regarding your desire to deal with the Wraith Realm, I can tell you that simply entering their world is an extremely difficult task. I understand, Gu Shan replied. I'm preparing to raise my rank to unsolvable in the Hitman Guild, then accept a few assassination missions into the Wraith Realm. Buttercup shook her head. That won't work. The Hitman Guild wouldn't be able to penetrate the Wraith Realm causality law defenses. They would only be able to infiltrate for an hour at most, after which they would be forcefully transported out. She sighed emotionally. The Wraith Realm is the most xenophobic world there is. I'm guessing that they're hiding some sort of shocking secret, which is why they don't allow anyone from the outside to enter their territory. Gu Shan froze. Only an hour? In that amount of time, I wouldn't be able to do anything other than complete an assassination mission. Do I have to think of something else? Buttercup stood up, paced back and forth in a room for a while, then suddenly sat down across from Gu Shan and solemnly asked, What do you want to do in the Wraith Realm? Get rid of them, Gu Shan replied. Buttercup stayed silent for a while, then waved her hand to set up a soundproof barrier in the room. She seemed to have made up her mind and said, Both Bali and Meow are my benefactors, and you're also a decent person. How about this? I have a way to help you infiltrate the Wraith Realm, but you'll need to work hard on it yourself, or at least reach the minimum requirements. Gu Shan became spirited and asked, What is it? What do you need me to do? Buttercup looked at him and replied, You're a sword cultivator and hitman, as well as an expert in cooking and many other abilities. I remember that you've taken on many different identities in the suspended world. That's right, Gu Shan replied. Buttercup continued, I'll give you 1 month. You need to reach the level of a titled hitman within 1 month. This is the minimum requirement, 1 month? Gu Qing-shan asked. Buttercup replied, That's right. Only if you can reach this requirement will my method have a chance of working, at which point, I'll do my best to help you, Gu Qing-shan replied in a low voice. Very well. I'll do it. Chapter 1367. A titled hitman represents the peak strength of the Hitman Guild. It's not easy to become a hitman of this level, but Buttercup told me that I need to achieve this before I can help him. The Hitman Guild's strength can be considered one of the strongest in Void City. So what exactly is it that requires a titled hitman to do? After thinking for a bit, Gu Qing-shan suddenly realized that he doesn't know too much about the Hitman Guild. Since I can't go on any missions right now, I might as well go back and learn more about the guild with that in mind. He stood up and said, It's getting late. I'll be leaving first. I'll come find you again next time. Buttercup, reach your hand out. Give me one of your communication talismans. Gu Qing-shan was a bit surprised, then recalled that she had once stayed in a cultivation-type world, even dating a cultivator. So, of course, she knew how to use a communication talisman. Wait a minute. It's been a while since I've used it. Let me look for it. Gu Qing-shan took out a communication talisman and gave it to her. Buttercup received the talisman and also stood up, saying, Your abilities will be taken away for an entire day. It might not be safe for you to walk around by yourself. I'll take you back to the Hitman Guild. No need. I should be fine, Gu Qing-shan replied. Buttercup continued, Don't be careless. Although your invisibility technique is impressive, if there's still some sort of mark or something similar on your body, it might draw the attention of certain entities and cause problems. While they were talking, the sound of footsteps could be heard coming from the door. Following that, the door was opened as a child who appeared to be around 5 years old came in. Mommy, I want to bring some snacks back too. The child's voice suddenly stopped. He looked at Gu Qing-shan. Then at Buttercup, his expression became cautious. Mommy, who is this? Buttercup didn't mind. Ah, an old friend. Why did you sneak back here again? I want to eat the snacks you made yourself. They're really delicious, the child smiled and said. Buttercup's lips curled up a bit and said, Wait, I'll make some for you. Bring it back to the tower and share it with the other students. She hurried into the house. Taking advantage of this moment, the child curiously circled around Gu Qing-shan and whispered, Are you her boyfriend? No. Gu Qing-shan quickly denied. Really? The child asked doubtfully. Gu Qing-shan smiled and said, It's really not. Your mother helped me before, and we have a mutual friend. Only then did the child heave a sigh of relief and murmur, Thank goodness you're not. You're too weak. You're a disgrace to my mother. Gu Qing-shan. This child must be the realm demon from back then. I really don't know what kind of power the ominous demon tower has to be able to turn the realm demon back into a child, almost no different from a human. Speaking of which, every force in Void City seemed to have their own characteristics and abilities. They were stronger than any organization in the 900 million world layers. While Gu Qing-shan was thinking, Buttercup came out with 2 bags of snacks, one for her son and the other for Gu Qing-shan. I made them. They taste quite good. Take them back, she told Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan hurriedly received the snacks and said in surprise, Ah, thank you. Thank you. He had always been the one to cook for others. Other than Xiao Lu, very few people ever cooked for him. The child happily received the snacks and said, Thank you, mother, before turning around and disappeared. Buttercup opened the door and turned to Gu Qing-shan. Let's go. I'll take you back. Since Gu Qing-shan was holding a plate of snacks in both hands, she couldn't refuse and could only follow her outside. It was already late at night. There weren't many people on the streets. Buttercup and Gu Qing-shan walked on the silent street, talking as they walked. Within the space turbulence, many powerful monsters and forces have a place in this city. That's why everyone has agreed on some common rules, Han Shuo said. Xiao Dai would remind him of whatever she thought of. For example, Gu Qing-shan asked. Xiao Dai said, Anyone who comes here without obtaining an identity within a day, if they don't leave, they will be done for. Gu Qing-shan replied, I know about that. Anything else? Buttercup replied, A newcomer who has just obtained an identity won't be carefully nurtured by any organization, unless that newcomer has proven their worth. She glanced at Gu Qing-shan and whispered, A ceiling hitman can only be considered a temporary candidate. Only after you reach unsolvable or unlivable rank would the Hitman Guild recognize you as a valuable hitman. Only then would they properly nurture you. Gu Qingshan recalled her time in the Hitman Guild and felt a bit relieved. No wonder Poison Bee wasn't in a hurry to save me when I ran into the 4 demon insects. So it wasn't just for personal reasons, but also because a ceiling hitman isn't much at all. Also, when he became a sealed rank assassin, he only received a sturdy armor. He didn't have the right to touch anything else. Seems like I'll have to hurry up and become an unsolvable hitman as soon as possible. Right, Buttercup, what rank are you in the ominous demon tower? Have you passed your probation? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup replied, being a teaching assistant is a probationary position. I'm the head of academic affairs. All the mischievous little demons have to listen to me. How impressive. Gu Qingshan sincerely praised her. Also, for some reason, I'm considered a goddess among the ominous demons. They all consider me their dream lover. Buttercup held back her laughter and said, they're infatuated with you? Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Buttercup pointed at her beautiful face. It's not my human form. It's my true demon form. You've seen it before. I understand. Are you surprised? I'm surprised myself as well, Buttercup laughed. Whenever Gu Qingshan talked to her, she didn't hide anything from her. So when she talked to Gu Qingshan, she felt comfortable and said whatever was on her mind. The two of them stopped in front of the Hitman Guild. All right, I'm here. Thank you for bringing me back, Gu Qingshan said. Then I'll be going back. Keep working hard. Come visit me whenever you have time, Buttercup said. She casually caught something from the void of space and gave it to Gu Qingshan. This is my contact information. All right. As soon as Gu Qingshan received the butterfly emblem, a whistle came from behind him. He turned around, only to see a man wearing a wide-brimmed top hat, a pair of black trousers, a pair of black leather shoes, as well as a slender rapier hanging from his waist. Titled Hitman Crow, this bewitchingly beautiful man displayed a frivolous smile and teased. You've only been in Void City for a few days, yet a beauty has already sent you back, and even offered to give you her contact. Tiska. You're even more impressive than I was back then. Not at all. It's just an old friend, Gu Qingshan replied. Don't say any more. I understand. Crow patted his shoulder, gave him a knowing look, then glanced at Buttercup. Such a pure beauty, huh? Why do I feel like she looks a bit familiar? Crow muttered, then suddenly showed a pondering expression. Buttercup coldly glared at Crow, thinking that Gu Qingshan would still be staying in the Hitman Guild for quite a while. So she slowly dispelled her killing intent. I'm leaving. Contact me if you need anything, she told Gu Qingshan. This person is just a blabbermouth. Don't take it to heart, Gu Qingshan said apologetically. It's fine, Buttercup smiled. She turned around and walked towards the other side of the street, slowly disappearing at the end of the road. Gu Qingshan looked at Crow. Crow was still thinking about Buttercup's background. Crow, I have something I want to ask you. What is it? Crow regained his senses and asked. Gu Qingshan replied, to advance to unsolvable rank, I need to complete 5 consecutive full-score quests. It's troublesome and time-consuming. Is there a faster way? Crow looked at him with a mocking expression. You really want to advance that badly? I want to become a titled hitman as soon as possible, Gu Qingshan replied. Crow was a bit surprised, then chuckled. Seeing how you dealt with Poison Bee, I thought someone like you was just playing around as a hitman. I don't think of him as one of my own, Gu Qingshan replied. Crow nodded, then said, all right, if you really want to join the profession, you'll need to participate in a large-scale joint mission. If your performance is exceptional, you'll be able to complete 3 to 4 full-score quests at once. I happen to be in charge of such a mission. Do you want to join? Gu Qingshan replied. Of course, Crow became a bit more cautious, then said, this mission is very difficult. You might lose your life if you're not careful. You need to consider carefully. There's no need to consider. I'll join all right if you die. Don't blame me, I won't. I'll treat you to a drink after the mission. Aha. All right, at another location. Buttercup walked a few streets, then silently stood in a corner for a while. Scenes of the past flashed through her mind. Buttercup, although you're only 6 years old, your talent with scrolls is the best in this world. That's great. After being oppressed for so long, A peerless genius has finally appeared in our world. Keep it a secret. Make sure to keep it a secret. Yes. Don't say anything. Heavenly flames rained down. The world was heading towards destruction. No, I don't know what kind of information they've received, but they're trying to destroy our world. It's over. It's all over. Boom. Everyone was dead. I did everything I could to resist, but still slowly fell into the abyss of death. All of a sudden, a hand reached out and caught me. The hand was very steady, very warm. Ah, how pitiful. This is the only life left in this world. The man hovered in midair, looking down at me with pity in his eyes. You are... I am Bali, Iron Fist Bali. I'm Guqing Shan. Please deliver this flower to the crippled Bali. I hope he's well. I will definitely deliver it to him. I will convey your blessings to him. But Buttercup, do you know what I think? I feel that at the moment of the infinite world's destruction, a person who still holds gratitude towards others is definitely not a demon. I hope that one day you'll be able to appear in front of him and tell him yourself. No matter what you turn into, your heart will never change. You will always be the little girl he saved. All the memories disappeared. Buttercup's gaze became focused. I've been abandoned for too long, she muttered, then abruptly disappeared. Chapter 1368. A few moments later, Buttercup appeared in a spacious office. Tower Master, what a rare guest. Buttercup, why are you here? Tower Master, I just remembered. It's been a long time since I last used my void points. The Tower Master looked at Buttercup and nodded. Ever since you bought the land and built a house in Void City, you've rarely used your points. From what I can see, you seem to be enjoying this kind of peaceful life. That's right, with your help, I've learned many things and grown quite a bit, but I'm not a person who has a high requirement for strength saying so. Buttercup suddenly smiled at the Tower Master. Even if something happens, you'll always stand in front of me, the Tower Master indifferently replied. You've wasted your talent in scrolls and rarely used the power of a true demon. But I won't urge you like I did before. After all, you're a good teacher, and the children here all like you. That's a good thing. Buttercup fell silent. A while later, the Tower Master helplessly said, I've already gone along with your words for so long. So what exactly do you want? Buttercup replied, I've accumulated enough points, so I want to take them all out and ask you to personally guide me for a while. The Tower Master shook his head and replied, Points are very precious. You don't need to use them like this. I remember that there are various methods and food to strengthen yourself, as well as countless unique treasures that are suitable for you to use. With your position in the tower, you can obtain them with a very low amount of points. The Tower Master thought for a bit, then continued, Buttercup, if you want to become stronger, you only need to use the resources of the tower and slowly improve yourself step by step. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask everyone else. If you learn from me, you'll suffer a lot. You're currently living a comfortable life. There's no need for that. Buttercup looked at the Tower Master and insisted, I still want to ask you to personally guide me. Even if I have to spend all my void points, it doesn't matter because right now, I want to become one of the strongest ominous demons. The Pagoda Master's eyelids twitched as he suddenly emitted a murderous aura. He said indifferently, Come, tell me, which blind fool bullied you? No. Buttercup smiled and said, I really want to become stronger because there are some things that I can't always rely on you guys. I want to face them myself. All right then, let me make it clear first. My requirements are very strict. You must give it your all. Yes. One day later, Assassin Guild. In a rather spacious teleportation room, dozens of staff members were setting up teleportation energy crystals around the teleportation portal, checking the teleportation runes, and confirming the coordinates and corresponding intelligence. Compared to the portal that Guqing Shan had seen before, this portal was much more spacious and could accommodate 7 to 8 people at the same time. The 12 assassins had assembled. Crow was wearing a set of tight-fitting black leather armor, standing in front of the warp gate, coldly scanning through everyone. The Starfire clan's world was invaded by an apocalyptic civilization. They're already on the verge of extinction, so they've issued several high-ranking missions to Void City. The Bounty Hunter Guild, Hitman Guild, Demonis, and Holy Splendor Church have all received missions. So if you run into people from other organizations, There's no need to be surprised or act, someone doubtfully said. If the Holy Splendor Church and Demoness Guild are carrying out missions together, they'll most likely fight as soon as they appear, Crow replied. That won't happen. The Holy Splendor Church is responsible for the main battlefield, while the Demoness Guild is responsible for protecting the Starfire clan's dignitaries. The two are unrelated, someone else asked. Would the bounty hunter's mission overlap with ours? Crow explained. The hunter's mission is to rescue all treasures and civilization's inheritances, while our mission is to infiltrate the depths of the apocalyptic civilization and assassinate the leader of the apocalyptic monsters. Are there any other questions? Everyone shook their heads. Suddenly, a voice asked, What is an apocalyptic civilization? Crow's eyebrows twitched. We're about to act. Who asked such a shallow question? He followed the voice and saw that it was the Fear Fiend King. A newcomer. That's understandable. An apocalyptic civilization is a civilization that defected to the apocalypse. This civilization was corrupted by a certain unique apocalypse, causing all living beings inside to mutate into monsters. If they want to survive, they must constantly destroy other worlds. Each world they destroy would allow them to survive for a bit longer, Crow patiently explained. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Who would have thought that the apocalypse would also borrow other forces to destroy other worlds? This was the first time he had heard of such an apocalypse. Suddenly, a staff member loudly declared, 1 minute ago, the Holy Splendor Church's army had directly encountered the apocalyptic civilization. The war has officially begun, another staff member added. The assassins of the apocalyptic civilization were discovered in the palace. They have been eliminated by the Demoness. The hunters are currently fighting against the monsters that are trying to steal resources. The staff member continued to recite the various reports. The 12 hitmen didn't say anything and silently waited. It wasn't yet time for them to enter the battlefield. Under Crow's lead, the hitmen waited for another half an hour. Until a certain point, one of the staff members shouted, The main battlefield has entered a stalemate. The main force of the church's knights are about to enter the battlefield. Gu Qingshan silently thought. As soon as the main force of the knights enter the battlefield, the apocalyptic civilization will surely be under a lot of pressure. It's probably time for the hitmen to enter the battlefield. Sure enough, another staff member excitedly said, According to our investigation, the apocalyptic monsters have already sent their strongest troops into the battlefield. Crow stretched his body a bit, stood up, and said, It's our turn, sir. Activate the warp gate. The portal is activating. 5 seconds before the portal can begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bright rays of light converged on the warp gate, tearing open the void of space at the center of the gate. The other side of the void of space was clearly visible. It was an azure ocean current. Crow drew the rapier at his waist and pointed at the ocean on the other side. The apocalyptic civilization's command ship is right above the ocean. Right now is the time when their defenses are at their weakest. Everyone will enter the ship after teleporting there. Remember, kill without mercy. The enemy's head will be your hitman points. Understood. The hitmen all replied. Crow pointed at the ocean on the other side of the warp gate and shouted, Everyone enter! The 12 hitmen entered in a single file. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in the ocean. Looking up, they could faintly see a deep black shadow above them. The black shadow was the apocalyptic monster's ship. The hitmen quickly swam towards the surface of the ocean. They would take to the sky, then think of a way to infiltrate the ship and complete their assassination. At the same time, below the ocean, only Crow and Gu Qingshan remained here. Hey, didn't you want to advance to unsolvable rank? Why are you still here? Crow curiously asked. A small situation. Gu Qingshan closed her eyes and replied. From the void of space, there seemed to be countless hurried and despairing whispers telling her, Destruction. Destruction is coming. Save me. Someone please save me. Gu Qingshan opened her eyes. This was the current world's request, and the world's wish. Prayers? Gu Qingshan slowly raised her hand and lightly clenched it. Blessing of the past worlds. This blessing would be able to prove his identity. At least it would let the current world understand that he was a trustworthy person. I need your prayers. Lend them to me. I'll help you Gu Qing whispered. The voice became even more anxious, even a hint of intimacy and pleading. All, for a line of gray numbers appeared on the war god UI. This number rapidly increased. The pleading voices of billions of living beings seemed to be resounding in Gu Qingshan's ears. How regretful that I'm still too young. I really want to grow up and kill those monsters to avenge my father. The world is about to be destroyed. Can those guys from Void City actually help us? God, if you exist, please help us. Hurry. Who's going to deal with those monsters? There are too many of them. Kill. Hurry. Kill them all. The numbers stopped. Gu Qingshan glanced through them. He drew the earth sword and muttered, "Just enough for me." Crow was confused and couldn't help but ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" Before he even finished, Gu Qingshan abruptly took a step forward. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of the war drum resounded like thunder, resounding across the entire world like a thunderstorm. The killing intent of the entire world was roused by the sound of this drum. The Chao Yin sword flew out, circled around Gu Qingshan once, and pointed at the seawater. In an instant, all the seawater exploded, roaring as it shot into the sky, obscuring the light of the sun. Roar! Like an unparalleled giant creature, the ocean abruptly opened its mouth and roared. Boundless seawater merged into one in the sky, forming two huge arms that grabbed the spaceship in the sky and pulled it down. The ship was held in front of Gu Qingshan by the giant oceanic arms. It struggled intensely, but couldn't escape the restraints of the ocean. Almost a miracle. At this point, the hitmen had only just leapt out of the water, still in the air, and hadn't reached the ship yet. Crow gripped the sword by his side, staring at Gu Qingshan with an unprecedentedly serious gaze. Gu Qingshan reached her hand into the void of space, grabbing the heaven sword, sacrificial sword, sky shatter. This was the first strike of the sacrificial sword of 7 swords. Even the era of chaos was sent flying by this strike without leaving even a trace. Not to mention the fact that it was only a single apocalyptic monster ship that was stopped in front of Gu Qingshan. The sword moved. A beautiful arc-shaped sword shadow appeared. The sky and sea shattered. A deafening explosion resounded throughout the void of space. The apocalyptic monster ship no longer struggled. As if it was dead, it remained motionless in place. A few moments later, a violent sea breeze blew past. Everything was empty. The ship was completely sliced into pieces, scattered by the wind into the ocean. No traces of its existence could be found. As for the apocalyptic monsters inside the ship, there was no need to mention what happened to them. The clouds in the sky were scattered. The ocean trembled, surrounded by seawater. Gu Qingshan sheathed her sword and stood still. "All right, that's just enough," he muttered. The seawater slowly returned to normal. Everything slowly returned to normal. Crow looked at the other hitmen standing still in the sky, then at Gu Qingshan. It was supposed to be a dangerous, large-scale joint mission. He cleared his throat, then turned his arm to greet Gu Qingshan. Chapter 1369. Across the street from the Hitman Guild, there was a grand and luxurious building. From the looks of it, this building wasn't any weaker than the current guild. In fact, it was even taller than the Hitman Guild, taking up a lot more space. After all, the Hitman Guild prioritized keeping a low profile, but this building didn't care about that. Instead, it hoped that more people would pay attention to it. The Bounty Hunter Guild. Assassins usually only do a single thing: assassinate. Unlike the Hitman's purity, the bounty hunters take on any and every kind of job: treasure hunting, protection, development, exploration, theft, etc. If the bounty is especially generous, the hunters don't mind occasionally taking on the role of an assassin. Dusk. As soon as a job was posted, it drew the attention of the bounty hunters, because the reward is very generous. The barren region's broken world. There's a treasure in that kind of place? Someone hesitantly asked. Idiot, you're a newbie, aren't you? The more a place like that, the more likely it is to hide secrets that no one knows about, another mocked. The previous person became angry and turned to look at the one who spoke, but when he saw who it was, his anger was instantly extinguished, unable to say a single word. How regretful. This job requires unsolvable or unlivable hunters to act. I don't have a chance, someone regretfully said. It's not just the level limit. It also requires a professional treasure hunter with at least 10 successful treasure hunting experiences. Another hunter sighed emotionally. Look at this third requirement. Skilled in close combat. Agile. No spellcasters because there might be anti-magic monsters. From the looks of it, only those experienced veterans are qualified to take on this job. With such high requirements, the treasure most likely isn't normal either, the hunters discussed among themselves. The hunters who were qualified to accept the quest accepted the quest silently and turned around to leave. Unlike the Hitman Guild, the Bounty Hunter Guild encouraged competition. As long as they met the employer's requirements, anyone could take on the job. But as for who could complete the job and receive the bounty, that would depend on their own strength. Half an hour later, the barren region's broken world. This was a destroyed world, a no-man's zone. Two hunters were enthusiastically greeting each other. Double-edged eagle, I didn't know you accepted this quest. If I had known, I wouldn't have come, said the stocky, dark-skinned man. In front of him, a short man with two short knives on his waist laughed and said, "Haha, so it's peeling heart demon thorn. The reward for this mission is too generous. I had no choice but to come." The black-faced man hesitated. "Then, why don't we complete this mission together and split the rewards?" "Good idea." The short man clapped his hands. "That's it. It's settled then." "All right, let's go." According to the mission report, the ruins should be here. The black-faced man lowered his head to look at the report in his hand and walked in a certain direction. Behind him, the short man's face revealed a fierce expression. It couldn't be helped. This was a great opportunity. They were both hunters of the same level. If they were to fight head-on, the outcome would be different. However, the other party had exposed his back just like that. If he still didn't make a move, he would be wasting such a good opportunity. The short man quietly drew out two short knives. "Die!" he roared, his two blades fiercely slashing at the black-faced man. "Dang! Dang!" Two clear sounds. At some point, the black-faced man had turned into a metal rod that stood still. Intense pain. The short man looked down in disbelief, only to see a sharp thorn piercing through his heart. The black-faced man's regretful voice came from behind him. "There's no need for you to do this. Actually, it would be better if we split the reward equally." The thorn retracted. The short man fell to the ground. The black-faced man sighed, stepped forward, and used the black demon thorn in his hand to cut the other party into meat paste. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to destroy your corpse. You're too cunning. I'm afraid that you might have something else up your sleeve after doing that." The black-faced man took out the report again and seriously read it. This world had already been destroyed. The civilization of the past was nowhere to be found, leaving only a few sparse buildings that still stood tall on the barren land, despite the baptism of time. "Southwest. It's quite far away from the war point. It's an intact building. If that's the case, it might be a treasure left behind by the previous civilization. How curious. I have to take a look at it. If it's not suitable, I can just give it to the guild in exchange for the reward." The black-faced man looked towards the southwest direction, his gaze becoming solemn. His figure moved, and he kept flying in the southwest direction. Time passed. At midnight, the black-faced man caught up to a small hunting party. There were a total of 5 people in this hunting party. Each one of them was an expert in treasure hunting. They met each other in the guild before. When they noticed someone quickly approaching from behind, they immediately got into a defensive formation. The black-faced man stopped at a distance, looking at this group of 5. "This is a bit troublesome. Gentlemen, did you also accept this quest?" he asked. "That's right, peeling heart demon thorn. Scram, don't force us to kill you," the party leader loudly replied. The black-faced man bowed and said, "Can I join you? After all, this quest has a higher chance of success with more people. I only want 20% of the reward. Do you want to die?" "Scram. 10%. I only want 10%. Scram." The black-faced man helplessly shrugged and said, "Fine, I'll just pretend I'm here for fun. Give me 5%. That should be fine. I only want 5%, and I'll be responsible for holding the front for the rest of the journey." The party leader appeared hesitant. Peeling Heart Demon Thorn was indeed an expert. If he could hold the front, the safety of the party would greatly increase. Most importantly, perhaps he didn't want to return empty-handed, so he only wanted 5% of the reward. The party leader glanced at his party members. Everyone nodded. The party leader loudly called out to the other side, "If that's the case, it's not impossible, but we need to sign a contract." He threw a magic contract over. The black-faced man received it. The conditions and content were extremely strict. This was a magic contract that had gone through countless checks and fixes, so there were almost no loopholes at all. The black-faced man happily signed the contract. The magic contract flashed and disappeared from his hand. The contract was completed. It was now that the other party members showed expressions of relief. The party leader also smiled and spoke in a low voice. "Old Fu, I apologize for offending you just now. Please don't take it to heart." The black-faced man shook his head and said with understanding, "It's fine. After all, there are many good and bad hunters in this day and age. Some people like to play dirty." He walked up and greeted everyone. Everyone put their weapons away. Someone opened a bottle of liquor, took a sip, then tossed it to him. The black-faced man caught it, smelled it, and was surprised. "Void flower? That's right. Sorry about what happened just now. We're all very careful when we're out on a mission," the man smiled and said. "I suspect that someone else took this mission as well. Seems like we'll have to hurry." The black-faced man nodded and said. The party leader laughed. "It's fine. With how strict the requirements for this mission are, there aren't many people who can come. I'm guessing that no one would be able to take on all 6 of us at once." The black-faced man nodded. "That's true. So I'm also very regretful. I really don't want to split the reward with you." As soon as he said so, countless sharp spikes suddenly sprouted from the ground, stabbing at them hundreds of times in a split second. 4 of them didn't even have time to scream before they died. The only one left was the party leader, struggling to hold on to his last breath, and muttered unwillingly, "Clearly, the contract." The black-faced man sighed and threw the bottle of liquor in his hand to the ground. "Do you think I'm only a close combat professionist?" he asked. The party leader couldn't breathe anymore, but his eyes were still wide open, waiting for an answer. The black-faced man looked around. The ground was barren and boundless. Not a single person could be seen. In such a desolate world, if it weren't for this bounty mission, no one would have ever come to this place. In other words, it was very safe. It was now that the black-faced man lowered his head and muttered, "In truth, I have a causality ability. As long as I can make a contract with someone, I won't be killed by them, and I can even unilaterally break the contract." Hearing that, the party leader's body trembled uncontrollably, his throat letting out a gurgling noise. He glared at the black-faced man with wide eyes. If looks could kill, the black-faced man would have already been killed countless times over. The black-faced man admired the expression of the other party before he died and smirked. "You're quite the lucky one. It's very rare for me to reveal the answer to a mystery. I'm only telling you this because I admire your despair and rage." After saying so, he crushed the other party's head with his foot. Everything calmed down. 5 corpses. The ground was covered in blood. The world was silent. The wind lightly blew, dispersing the stench of blood. The black-faced man walked out of the blood-stained area, looked at the bloody footprints on his body, and slowly scowled. He took out a brand-new pair of boots and put them on. After that, he sped up and continued moving forward. 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 A few hours later, finally, the ruins of a city slowly appeared in his sight. The black-faced man glanced at the report in his hand and sped up again. "I'm almost there." He entered the ruins, carefully identifying the terrain according to the map in the report. At a certain point, he found the building mentioned in the report. Unfortunately, another hunter had arrived in front of the building at the same time. The hunter was holding the same report in his hand, comparing it to the building on the map. "No need to look, it's this building." The black-faced man threw the report in his hand away and told him. The hunter glanced at him. "So, it's the Peeling Heart Demon Spike. Seems like the bounty for this mission is quite high. Even you're tempted." Saying so, the hunter drew his weapon and held it horizontally in front of his chest. A strong killing intent rose from his body. The battle was about to begin. On the other side, the black-faced man didn't seem worried at all and pointed at the building's door. This building's door is already broken, but we don't need to use brute force. Otherwise, the entire building might collapse. What are you trying to say? The hunter asked. This building has been here for too long. If we were to engage in a fierce battle here, it might destroy the entire building, which might affect the treasure hunt later on, the black-faced man replied. The hunter appeared hesitant. The black-faced man sighed and opened his arms. You and I are the first hunters to arrive here, but there will definitely be others coming after us. Are we really going to fight to the death and let them take advantage of us? The hunter thought about it and agreed. What do you mean? He put down his weapon and asked. It's simple, we'll go treasure hunting together and split it 50-50. This way, we won't have to fight and we'll get the bounty. It's the best deal, the black-faced man replied. The hunter thought for a few seconds and quickly said, That's fine, but we need a binding contract, preferably a death contract. The black-faced man agreed. I also think that should be the case. Otherwise, I won't be able to fight alongside you without worry. The two of them spent a bit of time to sign the death contract. The hunter sighed in relief, put his weapon away, took out a small tool, and crouched down in front of the door to pick the lock. Just as you said, this door is already extremely broken, and it's connected to the wall. A single misstep could destroy the building. While saying so, he slowly turned the lock-picking tool in his hand. Gotcha! The lock was finally opened. The hunter was still crouching in front of the door without moving. What a good lock-picking skill, the black-faced man praised. He retracted the spike that pierced through the man's head, then carefully put the body into his inventory. There might be other people coming to this place, so I can't let them notice anything. All right, we've finally reached this point. Let me see what kind of treasure this time is. The black-faced man muttered excitedly and lightly pushed the door open. He suddenly froze. There was nothing else on the other side of the door, only a man in heavy armor standing there with a sword in his hand. Peeling heart demon thorn, Fu Chuan? The man asked. The black-faced man looked at him, quickly searched through his mind, then calmly replied, That's me. Who are you? I don't remember an unsolvable or unlivable hunter with a name like you, the man replied. Of course not. I'm a sealer, the black-faced man chuckled. What are you doing here? You can't accept this job at your level, the man sighed, then helplessly replied, I've made so many arrangements and worked so hard to get all of you into this job, all for the sake of advancing to unsolvable. Saying so, he raised his sword. The 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword. Chapter 1370. The black-faced man shook his head and sighed. So that's how it is. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong promotion mission. Gu Qingshan said, That's right. Am I right? The black-faced man asked. Gu Qingshan said, Double-edged eagle, brutalizing 5, venomous wolf, and peeling heart. You are all my mission targets. Unfortunately, I can't find you, nor do I know your abilities. So, I can only post a mission in the Hunter's Guild and come here in person. The sword was like a pool of autumn water, emitting a cold light in the dusky space. The black-faced man's expression gradually changed. Wait, you're not a hunter? Ah, of course not. I'm an assassin, Gu Qingshan replied. The black-faced man finally understood. The assassin in front of him was in the midst of a promotion quest. He wanted to kill him. The dark-faced man's gaze shifted to the other party's long sword and said calmly, In that case, there are no treasures in this world. You issued a mission at the Bounty Hunter Guild just to gather us. Smart, Gu Qingshan praised. Are you ready? You could die now. Wait, wait. The dark-faced man suddenly shouted, Don't kill me. We can reach an agreement. I'll give you all my wealth, and you can spare my life. That won't work, Gu Qingshan said awkwardly. As long as you can reach an agreement with someone, you won't be killed by them, and you can even unilaterally tear up the agreement. The black-faced man's pupils constricted. He abruptly pulled out 2 sharp thorns and lunged at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan did not move. In the next instant, the black-faced man had just moved his body when he collided with the void and froze there. Gu Qingshan moved. His sword-wielding hand seemed to disappear for a moment, but it also seemed like he didn't move at all. The wind picked up. A howling gale welcomed the black-masked man and instantly blew him away. The wind swirled up the blood that was as thick as ink and rushed out of the abandoned building, dyeing the sky a deep red. Crimson, light red, light pink. Under the dark and empty sky, everything was dispersed by the wind. Clang! The two spikes fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Gu Qingshan let go of the sword in her hand and let it return to the void behind her. He took out a mission list and looked at it carefully. 1, 2, 3, 8 people. All right, the promotion mission is complete. The other side, Assassin Guild. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Come in. President, the Fear Fiend King's promotion quest has been completed, Qin reported. Oh, the one-eyed old man said with interest. You advanced so quickly? What did he do? He got the assassination mission issued by the Hunters Guild, Jean said. The one-eyed old man thought for a while and said, that's part of the Hunters Guild's elimination plan. They're determined to eliminate those gray hunters who like to attack their own people. That's right. After the Fear Fiend King received the mission, he felt that there were too many people to kill, so he directly went to the Hunters Guild and issued a very targeted treasure hunting mission, then went to the treasure hunting area to wait for those people, Jean explained. Aha! What a naughty fellow, coming up with such a labor-saving assassination method. That's why he killed those 8 people in the end? No, he only killed one. The others died from internal strife. So that's how it was. It seems he had already predicted it. Very good, very good. Let it be promoted, understood. From now on, you can tell him all of the benefits and training measures of the guild, understood. The bar. In front of the bar, Crow and Gu Qingshan were sitting together, drinking and chatting. You spent a lot of money today, Crow said. It's fine. I still have to thank you for bringing me along during the large-scale comprehensive mission. Gu Qingshan raised her glass and said, Aha! Don't mention it. I'll never bring you along again, Crow teased her. Why not? Once you enter God mode, others won't even get a sip of soup. So let's just forget about it. Gu Qingshan helplessly shook her head. The two of them clinked glasses. The bar was noisy and noisy. All kinds of monsters had taken human form and were enjoying themselves here. Why did you become a hitman in the first place? Crow casually asked. I was poor and needed money. What about you? Gu Qingshan replied. That's all I know. Crow shrugged and helplessly replied. He thought for a bit, then continued. I didn't mean to pry into your abilities. I was only guessing that the power that allowed you to instantly wipe out the entire field wasn't something you could easily unleash. That's right. That's definitely the case, Gu Qingshan admitted. That's why I'm trying to say that Void City is filled with various organizations, combatants, and countless abilities. Although you become an unsolvable hitman, I still hope that you won't be too careless, Crow said. Gu Qingshan seriously listened to him, then raised her glass. That's exactly what I'm thinking. In truth, I've always been treading on thin ice, afraid that I'll encounter some sort of unique ability and be knocked to the ground. Never stand up again, huh? You sound like you're quite touched by that, Crow said in surprise. That's right. I ran into a hunter today. His fighting strength was very low, but his abilities were very unpredictable, Gu Qingshan replied. He still felt a bit of lingering fear as he told her about the peeling heart demon thorn ability. Crow also exclaimed in surprise. While the two of them were drinking, their surroundings suddenly became silent. Most of the people in the crowd had taken out their communication devices to receive the latest information. Crow and Gu Qingshan's badges also sent out a telepathic request. The two of them exchanged glances, then turned on their respective badges. A piece of information quickly appeared in their minds. Frowny face, special news. The Eternal Abyss subordinates have been defeated on a large scale. The Wraith Realm is currently advancing towards the Eternal Abyss. Through our investigation, we found that the Eternal Abyss is still in a slumber state. Everyone began to discuss this. Crow also scowled. I really don't understand what those Wraith Realm guys are thinking, Gu Qingshan asked. Why exactly do they want to attack the Eternal Abyss? Who knows? The Eternal Abyss is the strongest monster in the Void Turbulence. Let's not even talk about it. Just the powerful subordinates of the Eternal Abyss are no weaker than anyone else. Crow took a sip of liquor, then muttered, Everyone thinks that the Wraith Realm people have gone mad. Does no one know their true intentions? Gu Qing Shan asked again. None at all. They're too isolated. Almost everyone is under the control of talismans and masks. You won't be able to obtain any information from them at all, Crow replied. Gu Qing Shan fell silent. What exactly is the Wraith Realm trying to do? After I used the 7 strikes, I entered a temporary state of spirit wander and saw an illusion of the future. In the future, the Wraith Realm people ruled over the 900 million world layers. Killing and pillaging everywhere, they went to collect the fragments of the samsara, then finally set their sights on my homeworld. Gu Qing Shan clenched her fist. How could I let such a future happen? Crow, how did you become a titled hitman? About that, in truth, the highest you can achieve after completing an assassination mission is to become an unlivable hitman, Crow thought for a bit, then continued. To become a titled hitman, your codename must first be recognized by living beings and the infinite worlds, receive the support of the laws, and become a title. Titles contain unique powers that can help you improve your strength. In other words, my Fear Fiend King codename will become a title? That's right, Crow confirmed. Gu Qing Shan thought for a bit. That can't be right. The codename Fear Fiend King does indeed have the necessary elements to become a unique title. But those elements were all absorbed by my eye and turned into the world technique, Fog Realm Descent. In other words, the Hitman codename Fear Fiend King has lost the possibility of becoming a title. Gu Qing Shan felt tense and asked, Crow, can we Hitmen change our codenames? Of course we can. Why? You don't like the codename the old man gave you? Crow asked. It's because of a few other reasons. In short, I want to change my codename, Gu Qing Shan replied. Have you thought it through? What do you want to change to? Crow asked with interest. Gu Qing Shan paused. That's right, what I want to change to. He fell into thought. A full quarter of an hour passed. I can't think of anything. Gu Qing Shan was troubled. Chapter 1371. You can't figure it out? Crow laughed. You don't need to think about it yourself. You can just find someone else to help you. Who are you looking for? I don't think it's a good idea to look for the president again, Gu Qing Shan said. Names, codenames, and titles are all things that belong to the mystics, closely linked to a person's fate. You need to look for astrologers. They're experts in these matters, Crow explained. Gu Qing Shan's eyes lit up. Crow, was your title given to you by an astrologer? Yes. What's your title? Dead Silver Crow. Sound good. Crow put the glass down, stood up, and said, Let's go. I'll take you to the most famous astrologer in the city. I guarantee that he'll be able to solve this problem. Very well, Gu Qing Shan gladly agreed. The two of them left the bar and walked along the street. Soon, they arrived at the central area of Void City. Wait, this place seems to be close to the City Lord's mansion. Gu Qing Shan pointed ahead. In front of the two of them was a dark gray, majestic building. It looked a little stifling, but also solemn. City Lord Residence. The Lord of Void City was a very mysterious person. Only the upper echelons of the major forces knew of the Lord's background. Ordinary people only knew that there was a City Lord, but they could not inquire about any information related to the City Lord. That was a taboo and would immediately draw the hostility of the entire Void City. The clairvoyant we're looking for is in the City Lord's manor, Crow said. What? Isn't that bad? Gu Qing Shan asked. I might not be able to do anything else, but when it comes to divination, no one will stop me, Crow confidently said. As they spoke, the two of them had already approached the City Lord's mansion. A group of fully armored knights galloped over and stopped in front of the two of them. The leading knight asked, Assassins, why have you come to the City Lord's mansion? Crow said, This friend of mine wants to come up with a code name. We're going to perform a divination. The knight paused, gestured behind him, and said in a relaxed tone, Don't worry. Enter from a second side door on the left. Someone will bring you to the divination room. With that, he led the team of knights away. Crow then brought Gu Qing Shan towards the City Lord's manor. The City Lord has an advisor who's an expert in divination. As long as you can afford it, he'll be more than happy to give you a code name, Crow replied. Gu Qing Shan recalled that she had received a sum of money when she entered the city, and that she had received quite a lot of rewards for completing the mission. She heaved a sigh of relief and said, I see. That's convenient. Finally, he didn't have to think about a code name. Speaking of which, professional matters should be left to the professionals. Wasn't he just asking for trouble by letting his imagination run wild? After thinking it through, Gu Qin suddenly felt enlightened. When the two of them arrived at the side door, there was indeed a maidservant waiting for them. You two, don't wander around. I'll take you to the divination room. The maidservant bowed. Gu Qin and Crow both returned the gesture, saying, "Thank you." The maidservant led the two of them to a secluded room. Lord Crow, may I ask if it was you who performed the divination, or this friend of yours? The maid asked. He's my friend, Crow replied. Does he know the rules? The maidservant asked. I didn't mention it in advance, Crow replied. That's right. Nothing can be told to him in advance. This is the Lord's rule, the maidservant said with satisfaction. Lord Crow, then please wait outside. Your friend may enter, the maidservant said. All right, I'll stand here for a bit, Crow casually said. Gu Qin was led inside by the maidservant. Please wait a moment. I'll inform the Lord, the maidservant said. Thank you, Gu Qin replied. The maidservant bowed again, then slowly disappeared. Gu Qin looked around. This room seemed to be specifically used for divination, as there was only a single square table at the center of the room. Other than that, there was nothing else. Gu Qin stood still in front of the square table. A few moments later, the maidservant appeared again. She held a stack of paper and a pen in her hand, placed the paper on the table, and gave the pen to Gu Qin. The Lord said that we can begin, the maidservant said. What do I need to do now? Gu Qin asked. The maidservant gestured for him to look at the table, then disappeared into the void of space again. Gu Qin looked back, only to see a line of common human text appearing on the paper. What would you like to divine, Your Excellency? Gu Qin answered without hesitation. I want a code name that suits me, preferably one that can evolve into a title in the future. Another line of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Your title is actually determined by your actions, but a good code name will indeed allow you to gain the favor of living beings, the world, and the laws of the world. Gu Qin nodded. The other party's words were very reasonable. I'm a hitman. I hope you'll consider this when choosing my code name. Sorry for the trouble, Gu Qin said. Another line of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Then let us begin. I want to ask you 3 things. You must answer me truthfully. First, is the thing you're best at and what you like to do the most the same thing? What is it? Gu Qin answered without hesitation. I like to cook, and I'm also quite good at it. My future dream is to open a restaurant by the sea. The white paper fell silent. I'm clearly a murderer. How did I become a chef? After a while, new lines of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Please hold the pen and write down a certain title you've obtained in the past. If there isn't one, write in. A pen appeared from the void of space and flew in front of Gu Qin. Gu Qin held it in his hand. This is a very simple matter. He thought for a bit, then wrote down a title. Frowny face. Shunwei General. This was the title he obtained in the cultivation world. Immediately, a new line of small words appeared under this title. I will use the power of divination to calculate your new title based on the 3 previous titles you have. Are you willing? Gu Qin thought for a bit and decided that it didn't really matter. He nodded. Go ahead. Ripples seemed to appear on the white paper, and gradually, a few names of different lengths appeared on the paper. Cherub of Condemnation, Big Tabby Cat, Orange Sovereign, Adept Dragon Slayer, Inheritor of the 1,000 Dragons Ancestor. The white paper fell silent again. This time, the silence was a bit longer. In another room, someone muttered in confusion, Adept Dragon Slayer is understandable, but why is he the inheritor of the dragon race? She continued to ramble on. Titles are actually very serious matters. Why did the laws allow him to have a title like Big Tabby Cat? And that cherub, I really don't understand it. Next to her, the maids were already covering their mouths, trying their best not to laugh out loud. Gu Qin was also a bit embarrassed. She didn't think it would be such a coincidence to draw 3 such titles at once. Can you give me a new title now? He asked. A few moments later, new lines of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. One last question. What is your real name? Gu Qin shook her head. I'm sorry. I'm an evil creature. Our real name is something we've never been willing to talk about. All the text on the white paper disappeared, replaced by a new line of text frowny face. It was my lack of consideration. Then let us change the question. What is your strongest fighting style? No need to be specific, just tell me what it is. Gu Qin Shan answered without hesitation. Dancing. Sword dance. The white paper fell silent. What sword dance? You're talking about dancing, right? Dance. A chef who knows how to dance, whose original title was Big Tabby Cat, now wants me to calculate a new title. That's a bit hard, a few walls away. The person sighed helplessly and rubbed her temples in annoyance. The maids tried to persuade her. If you think it's troublesome, we can kick that person out. No, she replied. This is the kind of thing that's more challenging. I want to calculate it properly at another location. Gu Qin Shan was waiting. A few lines of text once again appeared on the white paper frowny face originally. I only needed to ask 3 questions, but there are too many uncertainties about your body, so I need you to cooperate with me. Is that all right? Gu Qin Shan recalled the 3 questions she answered just now and felt that it was too difficult, so she happily replied, "No problem. Please place your hand on the white paper." Gu Qin Shan placed her hand on it. On the other side of the wall, the person also placed his hand on a piece of white paper, silently sensing it. Strange, his body is indeed that of an evil creature, but I feel like something isn't right. Unimaginable, the law of space-time he carries isn't quite right, as if he came from another era. He is proficient in 3 types of power: soul origin, world origin, and the prayers of living beings. The first is swordsmanship, the second is world technique, but the prayers of living beings are used to dash. The person abruptly pulled his hand back and swung his sleeve. Instantly, all the maids disappeared, transported to another location. There was no one around. The person suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling a wave of shock in his heart. So the dance he was talking about was this kind of dance. This is unimaginable. The person breathed heavily, then quickly wrote a line of text on the paper. "I'll remember you, fiend," she muttered. At another location, Gu Qin Shan stared at the white paper, only to see a line of text slowly appearing on it. Frowny face, your hitman codename has been calculated. It is Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Gu Qin Shan froze. It's that simple, he muttered to himself. A line of glowing text suddenly appeared on the war god. UI, frowny face, you've obtained the complete hitman codename. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. There is no need to do anything unnecessary. As long as you do what you want to do, this codename will one day become your title. Chapter 1372. Gu Qin Shan walked out from the small house. How is it? What kind of codename did he give you? Crow asked with interest. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, Gu Qin Shan replied. Crow pondered this codename, then slowly said, "It sounds quite special. How much did he charge you?" 50 void gold coins, Gu Qin Shan replied. That much? Crow exclaimed in shock. Seems like that advisor must have put in a lot of effort. Gu Qin Shan smiled and said nothing. He had already taken out almost all of the money he had on him, leaving only a single silver coin. Not good. After returning to the guild, I need to quickly exchange my points for some money, otherwise I won't even be able to afford a drink later on. A maid appeared out of thin air and bowed to them. Please follow me. I'll lead you out of the estate. Ah, thank you, the 2 of them said in unison. Perhaps it was just her imagination, but Gu Qin Shan felt like this maid was looking at her with an inexplicable smile in her eyes. What are you smiling about? Gu Qin Shan silently muttered. The maid led the 2 of them outside. Halfway there, another maidservant suddenly appeared. This maid appeared a bit nervous and said, "We have guests. Please follow me on the small path." Gu Qin Shan and Crow nodded, then let the 2 maids lead the way. The city lord's estate was heavily guarded. The sky was filled with various magical barriers, as well as various defensive measures on the ground. So without a guide, they wouldn't dare to wander around carelessly. As they were about to turn onto a small path on the side, a group of people appeared at the end of the path. There were 7 to 8 men wearing Yikshan masks. Gu Qin Shan casually glanced at these wraiths. So the so-called guests were them. Why did they come to the city lord's estate? You 2 will go this way. The maid hurriedly led Gu Qing-shan and Crow to the small path to avoid the guests. Then they heard the sound of discussion from the other side. The people of the Hitman Guild, a bunch of clowns, about to bow down to us, underground rats, daring to come to the City Lord's estate. The people of the Wraith Realm spoke without hesitation. Gu Qing-shan was not an ordinary person. Her face was expressionless. She pretended that she did not hear anything and walked straight to the path. This place was none other than Void City's City Lord's Manor. Everything that happened here, every word that was said, could possibly represent the true intentions of a certain force. But the people of the Wraith Realm dared to openly provoke the Hitman Guild in the City Lord's Manor. They must have prepared something. They must have been plotting something, planning to do something. Perhaps they weren't targeting the Hitman Guild, but any organization of Void City that appeared in the City Lord's mansion. I and Crow only happened to run into this matter at the right time. In a second, Gu Qing-shan made a decision. He decided not to take the bait. However, Crow suddenly turned around. A bunch of things that are neither human nor ghost. Yet you dare to mock our assassin guild? He sneered. Gu Qing-shan's heart sank. Crow was a titled hitman, a top-tier combatant of the Hitman Guild. With Crow's status, if he allowed others to insult the guild and himself in front of him, he wouldn't be able to stay in Void City any longer. The people of the Wraith Realm immediately stopped. Almost as soon as Crow spoke, they stopped in their tracks. When Crow finished speaking, they had already surrounded him. Gu Qing-shan's gaze moved around, only to see that these people were gesturing with their eyes, apparently arranging something. Sure enough, this was premeditated. But what are they trying to express by targeting the Hitman Guild? Crow smirked, then told Gu Qing-shan in a low voice, "I've dragged you into this." Gu Qing-shan shook her head, thinking quickly. Both Crow and I haven't made any preparations for battle. The other party must have some sort of plan. If something were to happen, both Crow and I would end up very badly. But this is the City Lord's Manor. As soon as a conflict breaks out, guards would immediately arrive. In other words, if this conflict breaks out, the people of the Wraith Realm are confident that they would be able to determine the victor in a very short amount of time. Gu Qing-shan's gaze quickly scanned through the crowd. In that split second, everyone around her was making various reactions. The leader of the Wraith Realm group was about to say something. The others around him were silently preparing something. The maids of the City Lord's Manor appeared hesitant. Crow's hand had only just reached the hilt of his sword. In that split second, Gu Qing-shan moved. Everyone felt their vision blur for a split second. Then an autumn water clear sword was already pressed against the Wraith leader's neck. The Wraith leader's body gave off layers of 5-colored light. Countless incantations and defensive techniques manifested, resounded, then faded away. Lawbreaker. There was no defensive technique that could block this sword. Everyone froze. This strike was too fast, so fast that no one could react in time. This strike was able to pierce through all defensive techniques. It was completely unbelievable. Just now you said the hitmen were a bunch of clowns? Gu Qing-shan asked. The sword lightly swung. A line of blood instantly appeared on the other party's neck. Blood continuously flowed out. Release the elder. Despicable hitman, you're done for. Put your sword away. Bastard, you want to die. Amidst the clamor, Gu Qing-shan thrust her sword forward. The other party's wound immediately expanded. More blood flowed out. If you keep yelling, I'll kill him right away, Gu Qing-shan casually said. Everyone immediately went silent. The two maids hurriedly went to inform the others. Crow laughed out loud. Ahaha. A sword was already pressed against your neck before you even attacked. I like to see how arrogant you can be now. He was actually a bit surprised. As a titled hitman of the guild, he couldn't avoid it. Originally, when both sides met, they would at least exchange a few harsh words, talk about their grudges, and figure out what exactly went wrong that led to this conflict. With the maids of the City Lord's Manor on the side, the other party would have to consider the possibility of accidentally injuring them. After all, if they hurt someone from the City Lord's Manor, that would be the same as hurting the City Lord's face, which would be a huge problem. But Gu Qing-shan didn't say a single word and attacked right away. How do I describe this attitude? A dog that bites doesn't bark? While Crow was thinking that, his expression became a bit more cautious. He slowly came back to his senses. The Wraith Realm people really wanted to cause trouble, and they were prepared. Gu Qingshan's unreasonable and direct method of attack was the correct way to go. "All of you shut up." The Wraith Elder suddenly spoke up. He took off his mask and stared at the sword on his neck like he was looking at a rare treasure, then spoke with a dry voice. "The Lawbreaker sword. This sword is the only bane." This Wraith leader turned to Gu Qingshan and spoke in a low voice. "Fiend, I have a deal that you can't refuse, and I want to make it with you, ah?" Gu Qingshan replied, her killing intent surging. At this point, the guards of the City Lord's manor had all arrived. "All of you stop," a guard captain shouted. Gu Qingshan immediately put her sword away. Seeing that the guards of the City Lord's manor had arrived, the Wraith Realm people all turned to their leader. The leader waved his hand, gesturing for them to stop. The time had passed. The people had no choice but to remain silent. The prearranged display of strength had ended just like that. Anyone else who tries will be killed on the spot. A spellcaster dressed in a long robe descended from the sky and yelled. What exactly happened? He then turned to the two maids. His position seemed to be quite high, as the two maids immediately knelt down as soon as they saw him and quickly explained what happened. The caster looked at the Wraith Realm people, then at the two hitmen. If they didn't fight, then so be it. "Hitmen, you can leave the manor now," he said. Crow laughed. "Wraith Realm fellows, remember this well. The consequences won't be as simple as having a sword on your neck." He then pulled Gu Qingshan outside. Gu Qingshan glanced at those people, only to see that the Wraith leader was staring straight at her, seemingly pondering something. "The Lawbreaker sword. You want my sword?" Gu Qingshan coldly chuckled, then silently changed her title to Starflame War God. As the guards saw the two hitmen slowly walking away, just as they relaxed, the Wraith leader abruptly moved. He abruptly charged forward, abruptly ambushing one of the hitmen from behind. "You're not allowed to leave. Leave your sword behind," he shouted. Gu Qingshan had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The Earth sword appeared from the void of space and slashed. Countless black sword images erupted from the sword like a blooming lotus, circling around the Wraith leader to kill him. Secret art, drawn shadow. Something strange happened. The black sword images abruptly disappeared, and instead enveloped Gu Qingshan and Crow. "It's causality law. Gu Qingshan, quickly dispel your sword seal." The Earth sword suddenly sent its voice. Seeing that, Gu Qingshan immediately dispelled her sword seal and put the Earth sword back into her hand. So the enemy was relying on this causality law ability to reflect damage. This is a causality law that I've never heard of before. Gu Qingshan glanced at Crow, only to see that he also had a shocked expression on his face. "That's right. The reason why the Wraith Realm humans tried to attack me and Crow earlier was most likely because they had just grasped this causality law, so they wanted to step on the Hitman Guild in front of the City Lord's manor and spread their name. The reason why I was able to injure him with my first strike was most likely due to the power of the Lawbreaker sword. No wonder this Wraith leader said that this sword was their only bane. Damn it, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have used / to completely erase him. I would have used the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword to kill him instead." Gu Qingshan drew the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword again, but it was already too late. The Wraith leader's eyes regained clarity. From the void of space, 8 armored casters also appeared at the same time. They all swung their chains and threw them towards the Wraith leader. Seeing that, Gu Qingshan slowly loosened her grip on her sword. Chapter 1373. The chain was tossed forward, coiling around the Wraith leader. At this point, Starflame War God S title skill Conquer had already ended. The old man had also recovered. He looked at the metal chain flying towards him, and his expression changed. "Don't do anything," he shouted at his subordinates. 8 iron chains bound him tightly. The old man turned to the caster in the sky and smiled bitterly. This old man was impolite this time. "Please bring me to the City Lord. I want to apologize to him in person." The rest of the Wraith Realm cultivators exchanged glances. How did the situation take such a sudden turn for the worse? only to see the old man signaling them with his eyes, telling them to stay calm. Everyone could only stay still. In the sky, the leading caster sighed and shook his head. Elder Do, let's go to the city lord and await his judgment. With a wave of his hand, his 8 subordinates pulled the chain and brought the old man away. Before the old man disappeared, he stared deeply at Gu Qin Shan. Fiend, I'll find you, he sent his voice. Gu Qin Shan remained expressionless and didn't respond. At this point, the leading caster descended and stood in front of Gu Qin Shan and Crow. You may leave. The responsibility for this matter does not lie with you, he said. Crow turned to the Wraith Realm cultivators and smirked. Very well. Next time, if any scum dares to mess with us, they'll have to write their wills first. The Wraith Realm cultivators glared at him. If this wasn't Void City, you would have already been refined into ghosts, one of them couldn't help but say. Crow coldly laughed, then said, I'll wait for you. Come to the Hitman Guild at any time. With 2 maids leading the way, Crow and Gu Qin Shan left the city lord's manor. As soon as they left the city lord's manor, Crow called a black bird, whispered a few words to it, then let it fly away. I'm going to tell the old man about this, so that he won't be confused when the wraiths come knocking on his door in the future, Crow explained to Gu Qin Shan. Under the shroud of night, the surroundings were shrouded in darkness. Although there were many people on the streets, every bar, casino, nightclub, and restaurant were filled with people. The nightlife had just begun. Crow's expression was solemn and contemplative, no longer in the mood to play around. Gu Qin Shan analyzed. This time we just happened to run into them. They only came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, wanting to use us to show off their strength. Crow nodded in agreement. I agree, but if others want to step on us, we can't just willingly become their stepping stones. Crow suddenly patted his shoulder and said, You need to be careful. Your sword is able to counter them, so they might come looking for trouble later on. Gu Qin Shan remained silent. Not very likely, but definitely. The person known as Elder Do would definitely come looking for him. For the 6 Paths, Great Mountain Sword. Gu Qin Shan's mind turned a bit, then purposefully appeared doubtful and asked, I heard that among the Samsara worlds, the tomb of myriad beasts had fused with more world fragments, so they should be stronger than the Wraith Realm. But why do so few people from the tomb of myriad beasts come out, while the Wraith Realm people are always roaming around Void City? Crow explained, the tomb of myriad beasts had fused with a great Samsara tomb, so apocalypses would frequently descend from the great tomb into their world, so they can't even take care of themselves. As for the Wraith Realm, Crow shook his head, then muttered, Normally, I can't tell you, but since you've offended them for the sake of the guild's reputation, I don't mind telling you the Wraith Realm's strongest are life talismans, Yiksha masks, skies hexes, and artifacts causality law. Among them, life talismans are the most malicious, using the lives of living beings as the basis to perform unimaginable feats. As for the Yiksha masks, they all have the power to hit without fail, while their artifacts contain causality law. These 3 powers have already surpassed many worlds. Even among first-rate worlds, they could be ranked among the top few, but they somehow managed to obtain some immortal crafts. Speaking of immortal crafts, Crow appeared doubtful. I don't really understand immortal crafts, but they seem to be the strongest spells of the Samsara. That means the Wraith Realm is very strong, very, very strong. You have to be careful. Gu Qin Shan nodded in agreement. Back in the Yama Heavenly Realm, when she ran into Tsang Wuzhang's servant, he had a pair of golden chopsticks that indeed contained causality law, allowing him to block 3 attacks at once. Tsang Wuzhang had also used life talismans before. If he hadn't used them and had his subordinates die in his place, I would have already killed him. How strange. Why is the Wraith Realm so strong? Gu Qin Shan muttered in her mind as she followed Crow back to the Hitman Guild. Although it was already quite late, several staff members were already waiting in the Hitman Guild's lobby. Crow was called away by one of the staff members, saying that the guild master had summoned him. Qin was also waiting for Gu Qin Shan. She brought Gu Qin Shan to a secret room deep inside the guild. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The guild master has already agreed to your advancement, but there are a few procedures that need to be done, Qin said. Gu Qin Shan sat down across from her, rubbing her hands. Why do I feel like there are more procedures after becoming unsolvable rank? Of course, Qin smiled. Unsolvable rank is only the beginning. Here, we need to sign an agreement first. Qin handed her a contract. Gu Qing received it, only to see the words written on it. I hereby swear that, unless it is absolutely necessary, I will not affect any world in battle, nor will I destroy any world. Below that was the signature area. Gu Qing was surprised. This is, Qin smiled. Everyone who officially joins Void City must sign this. Why? Gu Qing asked. Because everyone is very strong. It's too easy for them to destroy a few worlds with a wave of their hand. This is to restrain everyone for doing such a thing, Qin further explained. The apocalypse had already destroyed enough worlds. If we were to destroy worlds as well, then the world within the space vortex would gradually go extinct. The world origin and the laws of the worlds would also gradually weaken, affecting everyone in the process. Gu Qing gladly said, "All right, I'll sign this. Can I sign a code name?" A code name is also bound by the contract. That's fine, Qin replied. Gu Qing received the pen from Qin and signed the code name, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Qin looked at the code name in shock. I forgot to mention, I just changed my code name, Gu Qing explained. It was now that Qin realized and said, then all of your previous files will need to be changed. Wait a moment, I'll handle it. With a wave of her hand, several dozen files appeared in front of her. After quickly dealing with this, she drew a line in the void of space and took out a large cardboard box. After becoming an unsolvable hitman, the guild had combined your fighting style and strength to make a comprehensive evaluation of you, then prepared a few things for you. Qin took out an ancient book, a set of black leather armor, a ring, and a card from the box. She introduced them one by one, frowny face. This is a manual that records the movement technique, flowing shadow steps. It can increase your agility. You can no longer use your Dragon Rider armor. You can now change into this darkness concealment armor. It's lighter and provides better defense. How much stronger? Gu Qing asked. About 3 times stronger than the Dragon Rider armor, Qin replied. Gu Qing couldn't help but click her tongue. Qin then gave the ring to Gu Qing and said, this ring can be used as a storage device. It can also be used to communicate with the guild and request reinforcements in times of emergency. She then took the card from the box and said, this is your identity card. You can use it to read the guild's information, use the guild's exchange panel, and enter certain special training worlds of the guild. As Gu Qing looked through the exquisite items, he silently confirmed that it was exactly as Buttercup had said. Only by becoming an unsolvable hitman would one be accepted by the guild. He put the items away, put on the leather armor, and picked up the Flowing Shadow Steps manual. This is a body technique manual. If I don't want it, can I exchange it for another one? He asked. On the War God UI, the War God skills icon lit up. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God skills icon. Frowny face discovered secret art. Flowing Shadow Steps. This is an hitman's assassination movement technique, capable of manifesting 7 to 8 flowing shadows that make it impossible to distinguish the real body. Would you like to pay 100,000 soul points to learn this movement technique? Gu Qing immediately replied. Yes, a warm flow emerged from the secret art, flowed up his arm, and converged in his thought sea. Ting, you've learned shadow steps. Hearing him say that, Qin nodded. We've also considered that possibility. If you don't want to learn the secret art, the guild also has a spare secret art for you to choose from. She received the Flowing Shadow Steps manual from Gu Qing's hand, then took out another secret art. You're a sword-wielding hitman. After analyzing your fighting style, we chose this cultivation-type secret art from the guild's treasury. It's the highest grade secret art in the treasury. It should be able to increase your fighting strength. I hope that you'll accept it. After all, secret arts are very hard to obtain, and this is the only one suitable for you in the entire treasury, Qin patiently explained. Gu Qing asked, if I choose Flowing Shadow Steps, I won't be able to obtain this secret art? Qin replied, no, you can use your points to exchange for it. Gu Qing received the secret art. War God skills once again flashed on the War God UI. Lines of glowing text appeared. Frowny face discovered sword art secret art. Desolation, this is a secret art. You must pay 800,000 soul points to learn this secret art. If you don't want to spend soul points with your current level of swordsmanship, you'll only need 10 days of hard work to learn this secret art. Gu Qingshan shook his head. It's not that I don't want to put in the effort. It's actually quite interesting to slowly learn swordsmanship. Unfortunately, what I lack the most right now is time. Soul points is secondary. After all, I killed the judge of living beings' fate and obtained 300 million soul points. I'll pay, Gu Qingshan replied. A warm flow flowed from the secret art into his thought sea. New lines of glowing text appeared. Frowny face, you've learned secret art. Desolation, secret art, desolation. When you parry an enemy's attack, you can immediately activate this sword to send them flying. Description. When the enemy is sent flying, the power of your next 3 consecutive strikes will be doubled from the previous strike. What a good swordsmanship. Gu Qingshan was overjoyed. Who would have thought I'd get such an excellent secret art by joining the Hitman Guild? Qin clapped her hands and casually said, All right, I've told you everything I need to. Do you want to accept an assassination mission? No, I'm going to visit a few friends first, Gu Qingshan replied. Very well. Contact me if you need anything. Qin smiled and left the secret room. Gu Qingshan sat still for a while, then suddenly muttered, Tisich, daring to covet my sword, I don't want you to live for even a minute longer. Behind him, for swords appeared from the void of space, giving off a faint woo-woo noise. Chapter 1374. Many things happened that night. Originally, they were just going to complete a promotion quest, but they ran into a crow on their way back, so to celebrate, the two of them went straight for a drink. It was supposed to be a drinking party, but it turned out to be a divination party. Originally, he only wanted to perform divination, but ended up running into a Wraith Realm cultivator in the City Lord's manor, causing them to discover the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword. Without even thinking about it, the Wraith Realm's Elder Du would definitely bring people here to steal this sword. If that was the case, then he couldn't blame himself. The orange cat sat on top of the city wall, silently pondering as he observed the direction of the City Lord's manor. The deep night sky hung low, completely concealing its figure. Sumeru Thaumaturgy, ghostly shadow of night. Buttercup's mark had been removed, so no one would be able to detect the existence of this orange tabby. It waited silently. It had always been very patient, especially when it was preparing to kill. The night breeze blew gently. The orange cat continued to stare at the direction of the City Lord's manor without shifting his gaze away. Finally, the main gate of the City Lord's mansion opened. 7 to 8 people wearing Yikshan masks walked out. Elder Du took the lead, and the others followed behind him. For some reason, Elder Du subconsciously looked towards the nearest city wall. In the dark of the night, the towering city walls were like an iron curtain, protecting the city. Even though the orange cat was sitting there, Elder Du couldn't see anything. Elder Du didn't know why he was looking at the city wall. He subconsciously shook his head and said, Let's go. We'll go to the Assassin's Guild immediately. Sir, should we prepare for battle? The subordinate asked. No, I want to apologize to the chairman of the Hitman Guild in person and give him some gifts while I'm at it. Then, I want to discuss a deal with that devil, the Poison Elder said. His subordinates fell silent. Sir, by now, everyone must have received the news and found out that we just had a conflict with the Hitman Guild. If we apologize right now, wouldn't that be a loss of face for our Wraith Realm? Someone cautiously asked. Elder Du was taken aback. Face is nothing. For that sword, no matter how much I pay, it's worth it. His voice suddenly became cold. Of course, if that demon doesn't know how to appreciate my kindness, I have my own ways to deal with it. Before his voice died away, the cat on the city wall had disappeared. It abruptly appeared several dozen meters away from the Wraith Realm group. The orange cat observed these people with a contemplative look in his eyes. Even though these people were running forward, each of them held a life talisman in their hands and released a circular defensive array together. Once someone approached them, they would immediately be detected by the talisman array. Although the orange cat couldn't understand this talisman formation, with his understanding of formations, he could roughly tell that Elder Du was the eye of the formation. His every move, even a thought, could turn this talisman formation into an extremely powerful killing formation. Although I can turn invisible in my orange cat form, if I were to charge in and attack, I'd have to turn back into my human form, which would be noticed by Elder Dew right away. So how? The orange cat silently followed these people and patiently observed them. It didn't find it annoying to kill, and it wasn't too late to take a life. Its calm gaze swept across everyone. These Wraith Realm humans all wore different Yikshan masks. In other words, they could release at least 8 Gai's hexes in battle. Other than the defensive causality law, they also had life talismans and other defensive artifacts. They seemed to be moving loosely, but in truth, as long as Elder Dew willed it, these people could erupt with overwhelming fighting strength at any moment. It's almost impossible to kill them all at once. Unless Gu Qingshan pondered for a bit and finally confirmed the answer. Unless they didn't notice me at all. Furthermore, no matter how short the battle is, I can't let them activate the talisman formation. To achieve this, I must first take care of Elder Dew, because the entire talisman formation is under his control. The orange cat thought for a bit, then silently called out to the swords in his mind. Luo, Bingli, Earth, Chao, Yin sword. The main fighting force will be Shanu and me. The two of you will guard my left and right. Block any enemy while I activate my secret art. Got it. Luo, Bingli, the Earth sword, and the Chao, Yin sword all responded. Shanu, we might need to use a new method of combat. The orange cat then told the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. Yes, I'll listen to Gongzi, Shanu replied. Her tone wasn't as cold and aloof as it was before. Instead, it sounded a bit more obedient. The orange cat couldn't tell at all, so he simply wagged his tail and continued. When I use my sword seal, you'll have to cooperate with me, because this is the first time I'm using this position to wield the sword, so I might not be able to use enough strength, huh? What does first time I'm using this position to wield the sword mean, Gongzi? Shanu was completely confused. Because I can't expose myself, The orange cat carefully explained everything. Finally, he had finalized all of the details. The Wraith Realm group had already made it halfway there. Only 2 more streets to go before they reached the Hitman Guild. The orange cat arrived at the end of the street ahead of them. He crouched on the ground, squinting his eyes as he watched the Wraith Realm group approaching. The distance between the 2 sides was getting closer and closer, soon reaching a few hundred meters. I'm going, the orange cat said in a low voice. Got it. The 4 swords responded at once. At the very next moment, the orange cat reached out his tail and caught the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword from the void of space. As soon as the sword caught his tail, the orange cat disappeared. Divine skill, Shadow Shift. When he obtained this divine skill, the war god UI had a description. This skill is a low-grade divine skill. No living being is able to resist it. No formations, barriers, or even secret arts will be able to stop it. It was thanks to this divine skill that he managed to trap and kill Qi Yin last time. And right now, even though these Wraith Realm people were being protected by talisman formations, Shadow Shift was able to ignore all obstacles. In the blink of an eye, the orange cat had switched places with Elder Dew. The orange cat arrived at the center of the group, while Elder Dew had been switched out. As soon as Elder Dew left, the talisman formations immediately dissipated. Right at this moment, the orange cat moved his tail and abruptly activated his sword seal. Secret art, full moon consecutive slashes. This was a sword seal that both the orange cat and Shanu were using at the same time. A white crescent sword phantom drew a full moon in the air, giving off a blinding light in the darkness of the night. What? Damn it, someone hit man. What's going on? The group of people shouted as they unleashed various colorful defensive techniques, but their swords were broken. Everything was useless. The sharp sword phantoms sliced the enemies in half, splattering blood, but the orange cat didn't even bother to look at them. He raised his front paw and threw a punch at Elder Dew, who was several hundred meters away. Ethereal, Grand Mountain, everything happened in the blink of an eye. As soon as Elder Dew was teleported away, he only had time to perform a single attack. But as soon as he unleashed it, a mocking woo-woo resounded from the void of space. Against that attack, a similar technique manifested and clashed head-on. Boom! A thunderous sound reverberated in every direction. Under the power of this technique, the entire street was blown to pieces. In Void City, every building and street was reinforced by a unique power, so attacking one of them was equivalent to attacking the defensive capabilities of Void City as a whole. But this technique still managed to destroy over half of the street. Amidst the loud explosion, Elder Dew's expression changed. My attack didn't work. Not good. I need to leave right now. The orange cat's long-distance punch had arrived. Elder Dew didn't have time to do anything else as all of his thoughts were shattered. He froze in place, unable to move an inch. A miraculous scene occurred. Although his thoughts had been shattered, he seemed to know how everything would end. Demon, devil, how did you do it? Elder Dew struggled and muttered in disbelief. The orange cat glanced at him, then swung his tail and tossed the Six Paths' great mountain sword forward. Meow, meow, he coldly called out. The ice-cold sword spun in front of Elder Dew, then abruptly stopped. A female voice resounded in Elder Dew's ears. Gongzi said, I can't tell you before she finished. The sword had already circled around Elder Dew's neck and drew a cold arc in the air. In the darkness of the night, a head was sent flying. Chapter 1375. Intense magical fluctuations shook the entire area. The long street was destroyed. Blood splattered everywhere. As soon as the Six Paths' great mountain sword flew out, the orange cat had already spread his paws and followed it like a shadow. A second later, the divine sword unleashed its power. With a flash of sword phantom, Elder Dew's head was sent flying. That wasn't the end. The orange cat's eyes were filled with intense killing intent as he leapt up high, wielding a long scepter with both paws, then stabbed it into the headless corpse. The Devil King Wardenrod. None of these Wraith Realm humans were able to react in time. Without knowing what had happened, they had already been killed. And before this Elder Dew died, even though he had lost all consciousness, he still unwillingly called out Fiend. He guessed it. Right now, the Wraith Realm still doesn't know what happened to Elder Dew, but the Wraith Realm is quite proficient in summoning and resurrecting souls, so they might have a way to investigate what happened tonight. I definitely can't let this Elder Dew's soul return to the Wraith Realm. Otherwise, there would be no end to the consequences. The orange cat held the Devil King Wardenrod down and activated soul dispersion. 1 breath's worth of time later, the scepter was stabbed into the headless corpse, trembling slightly as if it was being chewed, then quickly returned to normal. That's good. Even if the Wraith Realm humans went to heaven or hell, they wouldn't be able to find Elder Dew and interrogate him about what happened tonight. The orange cat sighed in relief. Suddenly, his ears twitched. A shrill alarm resounded. The guards of Void City were rushing over from every direction. The orange cat put his sword and scepter away, silently used ground shrink to hide in the darkness at the corner of the street. It leaped onto a wall and squatted on it, waiting quietly. 1 second later, a second later, over a dozen fully armored guards suddenly appeared from the void of space, surrounding the scene of the assassination. Where's the killer? He ran away. That was too fast. The battle only lasted for about 3 seconds, one of the guards replied. The guards looked at the corpse on the ground and fell silent. From a moment, they sensed the battle until the street was destroyed by the spell. They had rushed here almost immediately. But there was only a corpse on the ground. The battle was already over. A caster descended from the sky and landed in front of the guards. Sir, the guard saluted. The spellcaster nodded and looked at the corpses on the ground. A strange expression gradually appeared on his face. He slowly said, These Wraith Realm bastards had just offered the city lord a powerful defensive causality law technique, saying that it was to strengthen Void City's defenses. I was also present during the demonstration. Their defensive techniques are indeed very strong, so the city lord is very happy. Who knew? Just as we left the house, the law of causality was the strongest law in the occult, to possess such a powerful defensive causality technique. But in just 3 seconds, they were all dead. Everyone listened while looking at the corpse on the ground. The night wind blew. Suddenly, everyone felt cold. In the distance, the orange cat crouched on the wall for a while, then turned to leave. Under the cover of the night, it sped towards the Hitman Guild. Halfway there, the orange cat suddenly stopped. No. If the Wraith Realm investigated further, they might find out from the City Lord's manor that Crow and I had a conflict with Elder Du then. Crow and I are both suspects. After returning to the guild, Crow didn't go out. I told Sheen that I'm going to visit a friend, then came out to assassinate Elder Du, visit a friend. The orange cat pondered for a bit, then changed direction and continued forward. If that's the case, I'll go look for Buttercup. She can provide me with an alibi. The orange cat quickly made his way through the alleyways and reached another wall, looking at a small brick house surrounded by flowers on the other side. This was Buttercup's residence. At this point, the long night had passed and morning had arrived. The sky was a bit brighter. Candlelight could be seen from inside the house. The door was unlatched, and the faint sound of soft music could be heard. Occasionally, he could even hear people talking in low voices. In the garden outside the small brick house, 2 gardeners were trimming the flowers. They would occasionally listen to the voices inside the house, but were mostly focused on their work. Seeing this, the orange cat felt a bit hesitant. The house was set up with an anti-prying technique, so inner sight couldn't enter. But this time, the celebrity was Buttercup, who was entertaining a friend. And since it was still early in the morning, Buttercup had hired a gardener to trim the flowers. Wouldn't it be too rash for me to meet her like this? The orange cat's gaze moved around, then noticed that there was a small door at the bottom of the house. The small door was completely open, with a line of text written above it, "Frowny Face Special for Pet Cats." Next to the door, the dog was still sleeping. It was sleeping soundly. The orange cat was a bit doubtful. Strange, this door wasn't here the last time I came. He thought for a bit and slowly understood. In Void City, only Buttercup knew that I could turn into a cat. Buttercup had made this door and left it wide open, meaning that she knew I was coming. How is that possible? The orange cat wagged his tail and jumped down from the wall. Night was about to end. The effects of ghostly shadow of night would also disappear, so he needed to make a decision quickly. The orange cat walked straight through the street, arrived in front of the small brick house, and silently listened. The sound of talking and music inside the house became clearer. After listening for a while, the orange cat was able to hear his own voice. What's going on? The orange cat was even more confused. He decided to climb the stairs and arrived in front of the door. The small door was open. The dog was still sleeping. The orange cat slowly went through the small door. Inside the house, an orange candle was silently burning. Buttercup was sitting on the sofa, reading a book. An ancient phonograph was placed on the windowsill, continuously playing music and the sound of people talking to each other. One was Gu Qingshan's voice. The other was Buttercup's voice. The orange cat looked at the phonograph, then at Buttercup. She seemed to be a bit tired, sitting cross-legged on the sofa and flipping through the pages of her book out of boredom. Meow, the orange cat tentatively called out. Buttercup's expression changed. She stretched her back and asked, "You're finally here, where are you?" The orange cat turned back into Gu Qingshan. "You seem to know that I was coming," Gu Qingshan said. "That's right. I have a friend who's the advisor of the City Lord's manor. She's an expert in astrology, and I just received a message from her saying that you might need an alibi," Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan froze. Buttercup closed her book, then pointed at the chair in front of her. "Sit." Gu Qingshan sat down and asked, "How did your friend know that I was coming? You went to look for her to perform astrology?" Buttercup asked in return. "That's right, I wanted to change my code name, so I went to perform a divination under my friend's suggestion," Gu Qingshan admitted. He simply recounted everything that had happened that night. Buttercup silently listened to him and smiled. "It's fortunate that she sent me a message, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to see me. You weren't home?" Gu Qingshan asked. "I was in special training. I only hurried back after hearing about you," Buttercup replied. "That friend of yours, could she have seen what I was about to do?" Gu Qingshan asked again. "She's an expert in divining the connection between people. In fact, the first thing she divined was that the connection between you and herself was me. In other words, Both of you know me because you're my friend. She did everything she could to help you calculate. Once saying so, Buttercup took out a blank card and lightly flicked it with her finger. Immediately, a female voice resounded from the card. Die. Your hitman friend is performing astrology here. His body is exuding a thick law of death, most likely going to battle tonight. I saw the people of the Wraith Realm. They've all turned into corpses. After a while, the law of death on the hitman's body will subside, at which point he will go to find you, most likely to prove that he wasn't at the scene of the assassination. I'm only informing you. You can decide for yourself what to do. The voice disappeared. Gu Qing Shan fell silent. My actions this time were almost perfect, but someone was able to tell that I was the one who did it through a fragment of the future. No matter how much you plan, they only need a glance to know what you're going to do in the future. This kind of ability was too unreasonable. Buttercup chuckled and said, "Don't worry, she's my friend, so she won't expose you. The ones you killed were people of the Wraith Realm. She couldn't be happier. She has a conflict with the Wraith Realm?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "An irreconcilable conflict," Buttercup replied. Gu Qing Shan felt a bit relieved. However, an astrologer is able to see fragments of the future. Back in the 900 million world layers, I've never heard of an astrologer being able to do this. If that's the case, I have too many secrets on me, so I'll have to stay away from people of this profession. Seeing the cautious expression on Gu Qing Shan's face, Buttercup shook her head. Don't think too much about it. In truth, among all astrologers, she's the only one who can see fragments of the future. This is her unique talent. Chapter 1376. Music slowly began to play from the phonograph. The door of the red brick house had already been closed. Buttercup sat cross-legged on the sofa, propping up her cheeks as she observed Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan was confused and asked, "What is it?" Buttercup slowly replied, "I'm thinking whether or not I should turn you into an ominous demon. That way, your power will increase explosively. Are you worried that the Wraith Realm people won't let me go?" Gu Qing Shan asked. Buttercup sighed, then replied, "They had just gotten into a conflict with you, only to die as soon as they left the house. Even if you have an alibi, with the Wraith Realm's countless means, they might be able to find some clues." Gu Qing Shan wasn't that worried. After all, I already dealt with Elder Du's soul. If the Wraith Realm people didn't have any evidence, they wouldn't dare to act rashly in a place like Void City, which means they can only carry out small-scale assassinations. Gu Qing Shan was confident that he could handle an attack of this level. So he leaned back on a chair and asked in a relaxed tone, "You can turn me into an ominous demon?" Buttercup thought that he was tempted and spoke expectantly. "Not only can I turn you into an ominous demon, but I can also turn you back into human form at any time. Just like how I am right now, my strength can be greatly increased." Gu Qing Shan pursued, "At least twice as much. Ominous demons are all products of the mutated laws, each of them unique and powerful." Buttercup replied. Gu Qing Shan hesitated. He was actually a bit tempted and hesitantly asked, "Will the transformation definitely succeed?" "Not really, but don't worry. Even if it fails, you won't die." Saying so, Buttercup clapped her hands. A dog came in through the door, then sat down at Buttercup's feet. "See, this is an example of failure. But if you turn into a dog, I'll take care of you from now on." Buttercup stroked the dog's head. The dog stared at Gu Qing Shan with a confused look, as if it was trying to recall something. Gu Qing Shan wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and forced a smile. "Forget it. I'll just be a human. I'm more used to the fighting style of humans." Buttercup sighed slightly. Gu Qing Shan wasn't willing to give up her identity as a human. If they wanted to protect him, they would have to use other methods. She flicked the blank card and said in a low voice, "Woman, are you still there?" The white card trembled slightly. Buttercup said, "Very well. Can you predict what my assassin friend will encounter next?" A female voice suddenly came from the white card. "I don't need to calculate to know." Buttercup and Gu Qing Shan's expressions changed. The female voice replied, "I can sense those who were killed. Their souls are currently leaving Void City and returning to the Wraith Realm. Elder Du is missing. Although Gu Qingshan knew that the other party could see the future, she still couldn't help but feel shocked. This city lord's aid's perception and astrology are too powerful. The female voice continued, but what you don't know is that even if Elder Du's soul disappears, the spark of light he had would still exist within primal chaos. The Wraith Realm has life talismans and immortal skills from all three directions: space-time technique, soul growth technique, and body reconstruction technique. As long as they're willing to investigate, they would definitely find out the truth. And so, quickly send your assassin friend away. The further the better. At this point, the voice from the card disappeared. Buttercup put the card on the table with a worried expression. She turned to Gu Qingshan and said, "It seems you have to leave." Gu Qingshan stayed silent and said nothing. The Wraith Realm had only fused 60 to 70% of the world fragments, which was far from being comparable to the tomb of myriad beasts. But they were already this powerful. Buttercup reached her hand out and stroked the dog's head again. "Stand up, it's time to use you," she said. The dog rolled on the ground and turned into a burly man with a blade on his back. Buttercup said, "This is a person I saved. He has several unique human world warp techniques on him. Follow him and leave immediately." Before Gu Qingshan could say anything, the burly man already spoke up. "Madam, I know him." Buttercup was surprised. "HM? How do you know him?" Gu Qingshan turned to the burly man. He already felt that this dog's gaze towards him was a bit off. Gu Qingshan also replied, "That's right, we've met before in a completely sealed world," the burly man replied. His gaze displayed deep hatred as he asked Gu Qingshan, "Did you also fall for that old guide's scheme?" Gu Qingshan opened her mouth, but couldn't say anything. On the Gemini star, Shanu pretended to be the so-called old guide to help me deal with Lin. But this burly man ran out halfway and begged the old guide to help him return to his original Fei Shui world. In her panic, Shanu randomly pointed him to a random world. The burly man was successfully warped away. This scene won Lin's trust. However, the world Shanu pointed him to was a world where all men had gone extinct, leaving only women. I didn't think I would run into him here. And he was a guy who failed to convert into a demon and turned into a dog. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask Buttercup, "Where did you find this guy?" Buttercup replied, "There are always people who are willing to give up everything to summon us ominous demons to help them. One day, I received some sort of summoning ritual, so I want to take a look thinking of something." Buttercup's face reddened a bit and continued, "Then I found out that this guy was living a pitiful life, being used as some sort of tool day and night. So he was willing to give up everything in exchange for me to take him away. So you brought him to Void City?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Yes, I originally wanted to turn him into an ominous demon. That way I would have a helper, but his conversion failed, so I had no choice but to let him watch over my children. However, he unexpectedly awakened a few fixed-point warp abilities, secretly holding a few unique spatial warp channels. This became a backup plan of mine, so I left him at home in case of emergencies," Buttercup explained. Gu Qingshan looked at the burly man. The burly man's body was as thin as a skeleton. His eyes were already black and blue, clearly having been tortured for a very long time. This person is also someone with a lot of misfortune. He finally managed to break through the void of space with his martial arts and leave the Fei Shui world, only to go to the Gemini star, the world that forbade all supernatural powers. He finally managed to leave the Gemini star, only to go to a world that only had women. In the end, he was saved by Buttercup and brought back to Void City. But his conversion failed, and he became a dog. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan felt a bit apologetic. He sighed and patted the burly man's shoulder. "You've suffered. I'm truly sorry about what happened to you." The burly man also seemed to have recalled the past, cutting off Gu Qingshan's words and gritted his teeth. "This has nothing to do with you. It's all that old guide's fault. He threw me into that kind of world. One day, I'll definitely find him for my revenge." Gu Qingshan went silent, not daring to say anything else about this. Buttercup retracted her thoughts and told Gu Qing Shan, "There's no time to lose. The people of the Wraith Realm might arrive at any moment. I'll have him open those spatial channels and send you away." "No," Gu Qing Shan resolutely replied. "I didn't know that the Wraith Realm had such an ability before, but now that I do, I'll deal with the aftermath myself." "You're not leaving?" Buttercup asked in surprise. "I'm going to stay here until I become a titled hitman." "Then fight for that chance you mentioned," Gu Qing Shan replied. Buttercup froze. "Indeed, only by becoming a titled hitman would I have a reasonable chance to enter the Wraith Realm. No one knows the secret of the Wraith Realm. This is the only chance." Buttercup hesitantly said, "If they come to kill you, counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth, where are you sure?" "I'll try to smooth this over. If that doesn't work, then I'll just fight them." Saying so, Gu Qing Shan quickly thought of strategy. "I can do my job while fighting against the Wraith Realm. If they can't kill me, that would actually help my reputation. Wouldn't that be faster for me to become a titled hitman?" He silently thought. Buttercup patted the man's shoulder and said, "There's no need for you now." The man turned back into the dog, ran out the door, and laid down on the stairs. It was now that Buttercup sat back down on the sofa and muttered, "Very well, if we're going to play, let's play it big. If the Wraiths dare to act recklessly, I'll go crazy with you." Intense dark magic began to exude from her body. All of a sudden, the blank card flew up from the table by itself, hovering in front of Gu Qing Shan. The female voice from before spoke up again. "Fiend, which combatant of the Wraith Realm do you have a grudge against?" Gu Qing Shan was surprised. Buttercup's nervous voice immediately resounded in his mind. "Don't be careless, be careful." Gu Qing Shan understood and sincerely replied, "I don't have a grudge against anyone. It's just that I want to kill them." "All of them?" the female voice asked again. "Why?" Gu Qing Shan recalled what he saw during his spirit wanderer state, then recalled what happened in the tomb of myriad beasts. Those Wraith Realm humans directly stole the delimitation artifact and released all the apocalypses in the Great Tomb. If I hadn't gone to the parallel worlds to call for reinforcements, the entire tomb of myriad beasts would have been destroyed. Li Qiuyu and her younger sister, Zhao Qiong, Wang Shun, as well as countless others like them, would have died within the endless apocalypses. The world around the tomb of myriad beasts would have been destroyed. Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but clench his fist and casually said, "I'm sure you understand the Wraith Realm's way of doing things. Only by killing these Wraith Realm humans and destroying the entire Wraith Realm would I feel at ease. But if you want to go against the entire Wraith Realm by yourself, you will definitely fail," the female voice replied. "Things that haven't happened yet can't be said to be fated. Even if you can see the future still has different directions, and it will ultimately be decided by our choices," Gu Qing Shan replied. During his first meeting with Lady Fusey had also said that she could see several futures for Gu Qing Shan. But Gu Qing Shan decided not to believe in these futures. He would rather fight for it himself. As soon as he made this decision, Lady Fusey was able to see more futures related to him. This attitude of his was one of the reasons why Lady Fusey admired him and was willing to give him the Earth God's coin. Hearing him say that, the female voice went silent. After a long while, she slowly spoke. "I found the faint glow of Elder Dew within primal chaos. I've destroyed it and allowed it to return to primal chaos. Your killing of him will not be exposed, but since you had a conflict with Elder Dew in the City Lord's Manor, you should be careful of those Wraith Realm humans trying to probe you." After saying so, the blank card returned to the table. Everything returned to silence. Gu Qing Shan looked at Buttercup in shock. "What's going on? Why is this City Lord's aide suddenly willing to help me?" Xiao Dai was overjoyed. "That's great. With her help, there won't be any issues this time." Chapter 1377. Who exactly was that advisor? Gu Qing Shan asked. "Human." Buttercup was clearly in a good mood, so she continued, "Let me remind you, both she and I aren't human. We're both currently pretending to be humans. Why do you have to do that?" Gu Qing Shan asked. Buttercup replied, "Humans are a race that's easy to communicate with. Many monsters in the void take human forms simply because compared to their original gigantic bodies, humans are able to disguise their identities better, as well as avoid the apocalypse. Thinking of something, she chuckled. There was once a wormhole demon spirit who took human form and fell in love with a void fish woman who also took human form for 5 years. In truth, the demon spirit itself feeds on floating fishes. But it wasn't until 5 years later that they found out about each other's true identity. Gu Qing-shan recalled that scene and couldn't help but ask, "Then did the demon spirit eat the void fish woman?" Buttercup replied, "No, he let her go, but she combined her experiences to write a novel about a domineering CEO, which went viral." Gu Qing-shan rubbed her temples. "What a mess. All right, let's not talk about anything else. So what exactly was that advisor's race?" Gu Qing-shan pulled the conversation back to the main topic. Buttercup mysteriously replied, "Don't ask. She's very cautious and doesn't like people asking about her. So let's not offend her on this matter." While they were talking, Buttercup seemed to have sensed something and abruptly waved her hand. The phonograph disappeared. The sound of music and voices also disappeared. The sound of a dog barking could be heard from outside. Then there was a deep and resounding voice. "This humble one is Yu Tian-Gue, a Wraith Might of the Wraith Realm. I've come to pay a visit under the Wraith Lord's orders. May I ask if Butterfly Maiden is here?" A Wraith Realm person. Buttercup quickly exchanged glances with Gu Qing-shan. They arrived so quickly. This Yu Tian-Gue doesn't seem to be on Tsang Wu-Zhang's side, most likely a subordinate of another Wraith Lord. Gu Qing-shan silently thought. "Come in," Buttercup casually said. The door slowly opened. A man wearing a Yiksha mask and full body armor walked in. He looked at Buttercup, then at Gu Qing-shan. "I have no choice but to take the liberty to come here. I hope that Lady Butterfly will not blame me." Yu Tian-Gue said, "I don't think I have anything to do with your Wraith Realm. Why did you come here?" Buttercup asked. At this moment, 2 short screams could be heard from outside. Someone reported, "Lord Nethery, we've checked the memories of these 2 gardeners. When the incident happened, the assassin was with the Butterfly Lady and didn't go out." Yu Tian-Gue listened without batting an eyelid, his gaze fixed on Gu Qing-shan. He didn't believe it. Buttercup slammed the table and said angrily, "What did you do to the gardener outside? How dare you touch my people in my territory?" Yu Tian-Gue explained, "Those 2 gardeners aren't from the ominous demon tower, nor are they Lady Butterfly subordinates, but rather flower artists from the Emerald Green world. That's why we're using them to obtain some information." He took a step forward and asked Gu Qing-shan, "This unsolvable rank hitman, you seem to be quite arrogant yesterday and even got into a conflict with our elder do?" Gu Qing-shan slowly stood up and casually replied, "If it weren't for the city lord's people stopping me, he would already be dead." A sword appeared in his hand. Faint killing intent exuded from his body. Hearing that, Yu Tian-Gue couldn't help but be surprised. Does he not know that Elder Du is already dead? When questioned, murderers usually don't show any signs of wanting to kill their target. Furthermore, a mere unsolvable rank hitman dares to speak to me like that? Gu Qing-shan coldly laughed. "Are you thinking that a mere unsolvable rank hitman dares to speak to you like that?" He took a step forward and continued, "Truthfully, who do you think you are?" Yu Tian-Gue's killing intent surged and was about to draw his weapon when Buttercup spoke up. Buttercup replied, "He is a family member of our ominous demon tower, a family member of mine." Gu Qing-shan continued to smirk. "I've only just arrived at Void City, so I'm only unsolvable rank. If you're not afraid of death, how about we fight outside?" Buttercup narrowed her eyes. "Daring to touch a member of our ominous demon tower. I think I should tell our tower master about this." Yu Tian-Gue paused, unable to react. Gu Qing-shan quickly walked out, kicked the door open, and stood on the empty ground outside. "Come, let's decide who's the winner," he loudly shouted. Yu Tian-Gue didn't move. Normally, such an arrogant person would either die early on, or they're actually quite capable. But isn't this personality a bit too easy to ignite? From the looks of it, he's most likely relying on the ominous demon tower's power. No wonder he dared to turn against Elder Du on the spot. This type of person is very simple. Their path has been too smooth, so they're arrogant and overbearing. Logically speaking, he can't be the culprit. However, I still have to test his strength. If he's weak, then I can completely eliminate him. If he really is strong enough to kill Elder Dew and the others in a few seconds, then this matter will become complicated. More importantly, this person is related to the ominous demon tower. Then I'll have to report this to the Wraith Lord and let him decide how to deal with him. Utian Gue had already made up his mind, so he took out a halberd from his back and said, "Very well, I'll go with you." Before he could finish, Buttercup had already taken out a glowing butterfly and muttered, "Tower Master, the Wraith Realm people have broken into my home?" "Yes, they want to kill my family." Utian Gue immediately put the halberd back on his back and shouted, "Wait! Your Excellency, Butterfly Lady, I'm only here to take a look and greet you. I have no intention of disturbing you or your family." Buttercup coldly stared at him and asked, "Really?" The man outside was still shouting, "Puppy, come out and fight your grandpa." The veins on Utian Gue's forehead were twitching. He took a deep breath and slowly replied, "It's true. I'm here to greet you. I don't have any proof." While the other party is furious, I definitely can't touch the family members of the ominous demon tower. The ominous demons have never been reasonable, so if I really provoke all of them, even the Wraith Lords would have a headache. After all, the ominous demons' threatening methods are too strange. The three Wraith Lords still haven't found a suitable way to deal with them. Buttercup coldly scoffed. "Remember what you said. If I see you bullying my family members, I won't hold back. Understood?" "This humble one will take his leave," Utian Gue replied. He turned around and quickly left the room. The man outside was still wielding his sword, still shouting, "Don't go, farewell." Utian Gue flew up and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a hand appeared from the void of space and lightly pushed him back down. Utian Gue once again stood on the ground. As he turned around, he saw that both his shoulders were being held down. Around him, dozens of burly men had already surrounded him. "Brat, did you dare to bully our people?" A man with a cartoon bear tattoo on his chest shouted. Utian Gue felt cold sweat dripping down his back. "Tower Master, it's like this. One of our elders was killed, and in just a few seconds, the other party. But before that, we found out that this, Lady Di's man seemed to have a bit of a grudge against our elder. This was a misunderstanding, because I noticed that Lady Di and her man have been staying at home the entire night. So it wasn't her man who did it. All in all, it was my mistake. I hope everyone can forgive me. This was all our Wraith Lord's orders. I was only doing my job. Please have mercy and don't make things difficult for us servants." After explaining everything clearly, he hurriedly apologized and complained, lowering his status as much as possible. The surroundings were deathly silent. Boundless killing intent emanated from the bodies of these burly men, almost as if it was real. Such killing intent. Utian Gue couldn't help but wipe the sweat off his forehead and bowed. "Everyone, this humble one truly didn't mean to offend you." The group of men all shook their heads. Suddenly, one of them asked with a coarse voice, "Just now, you said Buttercup and her man had been staying at home the entire time?" All the ominous demons stared at you, Tian Gue. If it weren't for the fact that they wanted to know the truth, they would have already crushed this ghost. Standing in the middle, Yu Tian Gue felt like he was about to die. He gritted his teeth and pointed at Gu Qin Shan. "That's right, his suspicions can be eliminated. This humble one can guarantee that he wasn't the one who did it. This humble one will not investigate him again. This humble one guarantees." A second later, all the ominous demons turned to look at Gu Qin Shan at the same time. Gu Qin Shan's hair stood on end. "Why do I feel like I'm about to die?" At this point, a voice came from inside the room. "Who said he's my man?" Buttercup walked out and scoffed at Utian Gue. "You want to investigate a murder case with that kind of eyesight? He's clearly my little brother." As soon as she said so, Gu Qin Shan instantly felt like he had been revived. His mind moved and loudly said, "That's right, of course I'm your little brother. Why are you staring at me?" The men all smiled at Gu Qin Shan. "Ah, such a handsome young man. Do you want to become an ominous demon?" The Tower Master asked on behalf of everyone. Chapter 1378. The men had abandoned Gu and turned to surround Gu Shan. You're an evil creature? Wow. Who would have thought there would be such a handsome, evil creature? Little bro, where do you work? Do you need anything? So you're an evil creature. That's great. Evil creatures are always full of bad ideas. How about you stop working and join us? That's right, we usually collect protection fees from everyone on the street. No one dares to interfere. That's right, little bro. We're going to join the ominous demon tower. Big bro will give you a street to manage. You'll be the prettiest guy on the street. What's the point of going to the street? You don't need to do this kind of menial work. Just bring your big sis and come visit my house every day. I'll make you some good food, the burly men said enthusiastically. All of them were around 2 meters tall, so when they surrounded Gu Shan, they completely blocked out the light. Standing in the darkness, Gu Shan's smile was a bit stiff, but she still couldn't say anything. Stop, stop, stop. Don't surround my little bro if you don't have anything to do. He's a proper hitman, Buttercup loudly called out. The burly men reluctantly dispersed, but their mouths did not stop. Ahaha, so you're a hitman? I was wondering why you looked so strong. You're definitely an expert assassin, young and promising. That's right, bring Big Bro with you on the next mission. Big Bro will support you. Me too, I'll also go. I guarantee that you won't even need to do anything. That's right. As an hitman, you have to be careful, don't worry. Big Bro will protect you. Buttercup couldn't stand it any longer and came to chase them away. I only wanted to report the situation to the Tower Master. There's no need for all of you to come. Now that there's nothing else, go back. She then told Yu Tiange, and you, don't come to visit me without any reason next time. I can't accept a visit from your Wraith realm. Seeing this, Yu Tiange immediately understood that he had poked a hornet's nest and nodded. Yes, 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 don't worry. I will little butterfly push the group of burly men out one by one. All right, go, 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 all of you go. The men smiled, patted Gu Shan's chest, then gave her a thumbs up before reluctantly leaving. Gu Shan bade farewell to them one by one. Yu Tiange also hurriedly left. He practically used the speed at which he was fleeing, streaking across the night sky like a meteor before disappearing without a trace. The red brick house regained its peace. Gu Shan wiped the sweat off her forehead. This group of ferocious devils was too terrifying. He didn't even have the chance to open his mouth to speak. Seems like you're doing quite well in the ominous demon tower. Gu Shan sighed emotionally. Buttercup said with a headache, Let me clarify, I'm actually just their teacher. They're both married? Gu Shan asked in surprise. If these people were married and still came to provoke Buttercup, then she couldn't just stand by and watch. Buttercup appeared a little troubled, but still explained. That's not it. They're all very special aberrations, and if they want offspring, they can do it themselves. But after I came, according to their own words, they yearn for love. Gu Shan was silent for a long time. This is a little powerful, he muttered to himself. It was already dawn, so Gu Shan was about to leave and return to the Hitman Guild. Buttercup pulled him back and told him, This matter has come to an end. You're safe for now. Keep in mind, you need to hurry up and become a titled hitman, because there's only one chance, and it's getting closer and closer. What kind of chance is it exactly? Gu Shan curiously asked. I can't tell you right now. I've already signed a confidentiality contract. You'll know when the time comes, Buttercup replied. Gu Shan sighed, then sincerely said, All right, I'll do my best, Buttercup continued. I heard that the Hitman Guild occasionally has a few large-scale interworld missions. If you manage to encounter one, you definitely need to participate. It's very easy for you to advance, is that so? All right, I'll note that down. I'll look into it when I get back and accept it, Gu Shan replied. That's right, Buttercup nodded. I really need to put aside the Wraith Realm matters for now and focus on becoming a titled hitman. Gu Shan hesitated a bit and didn't say anything else. Put aside the Wraith Realm matters? No, it's not that simple. The envoys sent by the Wraith Realm to meet the City Lord were completely wiped out as soon as they left the City Lord's manor. This was the same as slapping the Wraith Realm's face in front of the entire Void City. Due to the lack of evidence and the threat of the ominous demons, Yu Tiangue appeared to have retreated, but in reality, he definitely wouldn't give up. He would continue to investigate in order to catch the culprit. Having fought against the Wraith Realm a few times, Gu Qingshan understood their style very well. Vengeful. They wouldn't stop until they reached their goal. Following this, if the Wraith Realm still suspects me, they would definitely act even more discreetly, even more resolutely, and even more unprepared. Fortunately, I've already passed this obstacle, so I'll have some time to increase my hitman rank. This kind of thing is not something I need to tell Buttercup. She's already done her best to help. The rest is up to me. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then smiled. Then I'll be leaving first. Go ahead, contact me if you need anything, Buttercup replied. At another location, Yu Tiangue flew out of Void City, leapt down from the tall city walls, and walked into a certain secluded forest. He took out a stick of incense, lit it, and stuck it in front of a large tree. He respectfully knelt down in front of the tree and spoke in a low voice. Sir, I've run into a bit of resistance from the ominous demon tower. A few moments later, a voice resounded from a tree. The ominous demon tower? Why would they be involved? Yu Tiangue explained what happened. The tree fell silent. A few moments later, the voice resounded again. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail? What a bold claim. Do you think this person might be the culprit? Yu Tiangue thought for a bit, then replied, My intuition tells me that it's not him. The voice asked. What do you mean? Yu Tiangue replied, This person is arrogant, hot-tempered, and easily angered. He would attack at the slightest disagreement. But because he's backed by Dai Nu, he acts like he's not afraid of anything the voice asked. Then, you feel that there's no need to investigate him further? Yu Tiangue paused, then clenched his teeth. This subordinate feels that if he isn't the culprit, that would naturally be a good thing. But if the culprit truly is him, then he would be a very terrifying enemy. What do you mean? A seemingly simple person was able to kill the entire diplomatic group in just a few seconds, then perfectly avoid suspicion, not even giving me a chance to probe him. Such a person would definitely be a great threat to our Wraith Realm. The tree went silent for a few moments, then the voice resounded again. Your hypothesis is very interesting. How about this? You don't need to worry about this hitman. Perhaps he really isn't the culprit. Go and look for other clues first. Understood, Yu Tiangue replied. He didn't ask any further, stood up, slowly retreated, and slowly disappeared. The forest returned to silence. A few moments later, the voice resounded again. Which one of our hidden pawns in the Hitman Guild? Another voice resounded from the void of space. Sir, the Hitman Guild's pawns have died. What happened? Assassination missions always have risks. He just so happened to be countered by an opponent during one of the missions. So he died. The voice from the tree became stern. Tisk, didn't you send anyone else? I remember we've agreed that we need to place people in every organization in Void City, sir. Poisaby had only died a few days ago, so we're currently preparing a new person. His identity and other items are still being prepared, so we haven't made it in time. This was a reasonable explanation, so the Wraith Lord didn't say anything else. TSK, of all the times he died, he just had to die when we needed to use him. What about the Bounty Hunter Guild? Are our people still there? He asked. A moment of silence. The voice from before replied. They are. This one is one of our core pawns. He's very strong, and his position has also been promoted to titled rank. The Wraith Lord spoke with satisfaction. Very well. Have him test that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail for me. If you notice anything amiss, immediately kill him. After that, I'll allow him to erase his identity and return to the Wraith Realm. Understood. Chapter 1379. Gu Qingshan returned to the Hitman Guild. All the staff members were looking at him with respect and awe in their eyes. News spread very quickly in Void City. When someone wanted to step on the Hitman Guild, he was able to put his sword against their neck in front of everyone, making them unable to move. Being able to do this was already quite an impressive feat, not to mention those people were all killed in the end. Furthermore, this hitman also had a good relationship with the ominous Demon Tower. He was strong, had a good reputation, and was quite popular. Who wouldn't look up to him? Gu Qingshan's gaze swept through the reception room, but didn't see Qin. Most likely, her shift was over, so she went back to rest. Gu Qingshan returned to the lounge and opened his room door. The ocean, the sun, the blue sky, the small island. This was his personal resting area. Gu Qingshan stepped through the door, stepped on the fine sand of the beach, and closed the door behind him. He casually strolled along the shore. A gentle breeze blew past, calming one's spirit. Gu Qingshan recalled everything that had happened recently in his mind, then began to check his own situation. At Sumeru Lord Realm, even the war god Ui wouldn't be able to help him too much if he wanted to advance to the next realm. Star River Saint Realm was different from all the previous realms. It was very unique and required a process of accumulation. This advancement wasn't normal. It wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. Gu Qingshan made some calculations and found that if he wanted to advance, he would need to wait until his Dantian's ability to accumulate spirit energy had reached a higher level. That would require a lot of work, which he couldn't achieve for now. He didn't want to think about it anymore. Instead, he took out an identity token. This was an unsolvable hitman's ID card, which allowed him to read a lot of information. With a light touch of the ID card, a screen appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan casually tried it out and understood how to operate it. He didn't try to touch the highly classified information that required points right from the start, only looking at some common knowledge. For example, what an ominous demon was. The corresponding description appeared on the light screen. To this day, there is no definite answer as to why some ordinary individuals would undergo such demonization. We only know that when this phenomenon occurs, there is a chance that it will attract the attention of the various laws of the void, allowing certain individuals to become super-evolved, mutated individuals. These are the ominous demons, who hold the authority over Void City. The light screen explained, when Void City was first established, countless experts wanted to become the master of this city. After more than 100 years of sparring and competition, the strongest person emerged. Everyone was convinced of his strength, and he became the master of this city. The name of the city lord cannot be said or read, or it will disturb him. Apart from the city lord, the leaders of the various forces in Void City are all part of the city's power. Under the leadership of the city lord, all forces will jointly decide the future of Void City. What is a large-scale interworld quest? The screen of light explained. When an apocalypse that is especially destructive appears, many important worlds will begin to ask for help. The various organizations of Void City will then band together to issue a large-scale interworld mission to gather their forces to fight against the apocalypse and save the various worlds. For example, merchant organizations will provide backup resources to support the various worlds' wars, while combat-oriented organizations will issue large-scale combat missions if the worlds are successfully saved. All saved worlds will pay generous rewards in return for Void City's efforts. Please pay attention to the following description. Large-scale interworld quests usually last for a very long time, ranging from a few dozen days to a few months, until the Allied army wins against the apocalypse or completely fails this time. Gu Qingshan understood. Void City was a city where countless monsters and races of the void gathered. It naturally had the strength to support the various worlds that were being invaded by the apocalypse, and it had to do so. Because the more worlds were destroyed, the weaker the world origin and laws within the space vortex would become, while the apocalypse would grow stronger during this process. No one was willing to see that. This was also the reason why as soon as Gu Qingshan became an unsolvable hitman, he had to sign a covenant to not arbitrarily destroy worlds. Apocalypse, Gu Qingshan muttered with a complicated expression. He opened the hitman's quest list, searched for a bit, and quickly found several large-scale interworld quests. However, he couldn't accept any of them. At this point, his ID card suddenly lit up. Someone was calling. When Gu Qingshan took a look, he saw that it was Crow. What are you doing? Crow asked. Nothing, just staying in the resting area, Gu Shan replied. Going for a drink? Maybe some breakfast? Crow suggested. Gu Shan helplessly said, We just drank yesterday. Are we going to drink again today? Speaking of which, I have something to ask you. Go ahead. Why can't I accept large-scale interworld quests? About that. Large-scale missions against the apocalypse are very strict. Only those with sufficient strength and qualifications can accept them. How so? Take a look at the quest list. There's a selection location behind each large-scale mission. Only by participating in the selection and passing can you accept the mission. Also, you're currently only unsolvable, so it might be a bit difficult for you to accept these types of missions listening to him. Gu Shan turned his gaze towards the large-scale interworld missions. Sure enough, they all had different addresses. Some were at the Star Cloud Commerce, some were at the Holy Church of Splendor, while the last one was at the ominous Demon Tower. The ominous Demon Tower. Even if the unsolvable hitman's rank is a bit low, the people of the ominous Demon Tower would definitely let me pass. As Gu Shan was about to click on it, this large-scale interworld quest suddenly turned gray, no longer accepting any responses. Crow, why did one of the large-scale interworld quests turn gray? Gu Shan asked in confusion. After a bit of silence, Crow replied, While these large-scale quests are being carried out, they would constantly recruit people to participate in order to ensure that they have enough fighting strength to face the apocalypse. Unless a certain situation occurs, they would turn gray. Gu Shan understood a bit and hesitantly asked, You mean? Crow replied, Yes, the mission had completely failed. The apocalypse had destroyed those worlds and all living beings within them, including everyone who participated in the battle. There was no hope of victory, so they couldn't accept any more missions. What should we do in this situation? Gu Shan asked. The big shots of the various organizations and the strongest monsters within the void will act. It would be great if they succeeded, but if even they couldn't, they would have no choice but to create a new map of the void and announce it to all worlds, telling everyone to avoid the destroyed areas for a while. Both of them fell silent. Crow, I want to try accepting a large-scale interworld quest, Gu Shan muttered. A series of noises could be heard from Crow's side. Apparently, he was also operating the quest list. A few moments later, his voice resounded again. I suggest that you accept the second mission on the 7th row. This mission had only been released for 2 days, so you won't have to face an intense final battle as soon as you enter. Furthermore, the selection point for this mission is located in our guild, so the person in charge of the selection would have to give our hitman guild a bit of face, so it would be easier for you to pass. Gu Shan's gaze moved, glancing at the mission again. Sure enough, it was just as Crow said. All right, I'll be participating in the selection now. See you later, Gu Shan said. See you later, Crow replied. The two of them hung up. Gu Shan silently thought for a while. This type of mission would take anywhere from a dozen days to a few months. But Buttercup wanted me to become a titled hitman within a month. Seems like I'll have to hurry. He quickly left the lounge and returned to the Hitman Guild's lobby. Hello, I want to accept the number 337 mission, he told a staff member in charge of the mission. It's a large-scale interworld mission, so you'll need to go through the selection. Come with me. The staff member led him into a hallway, then pointed at the packed professionists in front of him. I've already arranged a number for you. When your codename is called, you can enter. There will be a special selection, all right? Thank you, Gu Shan replied. He turned his gaze forward. The line was so long that he couldn't see the end of it. All of them were members of various organizations of Void City. At the end of the line was a small door where several selectors were inspecting those who wanted to accept the mission one by one. Gu Shan waited for a while. After about 20 minutes, one person came out, and then another person went in. Such a long line. How long would I have to wait in it? Gu Shan returned to the lobby, found the staff member from before, and whispered, Is there a way to not have to wait in the queue? The staff member also whispered, According to the rules, titled combatants can directly enter, but there's also another situation, which is if you have some sort of unique ability and believe that you'll be able to convince the selectors, you can also directly enter. This rule is also meant to save everyone's time. Gu Shan fell into thought for a second. He quickly pulled up the War Guide UI, set his title to the Most Flirtatious Man tab, then quickly headed towards the selection point. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1380. When Gu Qingshan went to participate in the selection, Crow was sitting blankly in his room. This guy, he muttered, unsolvable rank hitmen basically can't handle large-scale interworld missions, so they're rarely chosen. It might actually be a possibility. Crow poured himself a glass of liquor, raised it up, and looked at the overhead light. The amber color of the liquor was exceptionally mesmerizing under the illumination of the light. Speaking of which, if it weren't for his reminder last time, I would have gone into the Void Storm Cavern to check on Poison Bee's death. That would have most likely run into that thing. I'm afraid. Crow swirled the glass, recalling what happened in the City Lord's manor. As soon as I said that, that fiend placed his sword against my neck. Ever since my partner died in the middle of the mission 5 years ago, how long has it been since I've had someone this tacit? Crow downed an entire glass in one gulp and stood up. Large-scale interworld missions. The mortality rate is too high. It took me so much effort to find a drinking buddy, and since I have nothing better to do, I might as well go have some fun as well. He tied the rapier to his waist and walked out of his lounge. Along the way, Crow waved at the staff member. One of them ran forward and asked, Sir Kurt Death Silver Crow, what are your orders? The hitman codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Did he go to participate in the selection for the number 337 large-scale interworld mission? Crow asked. Yes, sir, the staff member replied. Crow smiled, then said, I'll go take a look. It would save me a lot of trouble if he was fooled, sir. He's still queuing? That makes sense. There are a lot of people today. No, he had just passed the selection and warped away. What? Crow exclaimed in disbelief. He quickly walked to the hallway and looked inside, only to see that it was filled with people. The queue was so long that he couldn't even see the end of the examination room. Crow couldn't help but ask, the selection is a very meticulous process. It shouldn't have been that quick. Didn't he queue up? That's right. He didn't even stay for a minute before he passed. The staff member was also in disbelief. Crow turned on his ID card and checked the number 337 mission. As a titled hitman, he had the authority to check the list of candidates for the large-scale interworld mission. The moment he opened the name list, he saw the demon's codename. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Devils hid their true names, so their codenames were just their titles. Crow looked at the name and fell silent. A few moments later, he strode towards the selection room, pushed the door open, and walked in. The 3 powerful professionals had just finished their assessment and were about to call for the next one. When Crow entered, the 3 of them all turned to look at him. Someone greeted, So, it's the Kurt Death Silver Crow. What's the matter? Our guild has a hitman with the codename Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Did you get him? Crow asked. Yes, it is, one of the examiners confirmed. What did you test him on? Crow pursued. The moment he asked this question, the 3 selectors were stunned. They were all deep in thought. That's not right. One of the selectors mumbled. I don't think it's right either. How did he pass the selection? Another examiner asked in confusion. We all have work records. Why don't you take a look and find out? The 3rd selector said. With a wave of his hand, he activated a certain spell in the room. A screen of light slowly manifested in the void of space. The 4 of them looked at the screen. It was a replay of the selection. The guy with the codename Dragon King of Atrocity Jail suddenly appeared in the screen. He entered the room, stood in front of the 3 examiners, and said, I'm very impressive and qualified to participate in this mission, so don't waste time and let me pass. Crow's eyebrows twitched. Saying such a thing in front of 3 powerful professionists, isn't that the same as seeking death? Following that, an unbelievable sight occurred. Hearing him, the 3 examiners all nodded in agreement. That makes sense. That makes sense. One of the examiners directly gave him a certificate and said, You've passed. You can accept the mission now. Thank you. Saying so, the evil creature turned around and left. The screen ended there. The 3 examiners froze. Does that count as passing? One of them asked in a low voice. He used his own abilities to make us agree. so he passed the other person's side. Crow stayed silent for a bit, then suddenly laughed. Ah, interesting, very interesting. I'll accept this mission as well. He turned around, left the room, and headed towards the warp gate. At the same time, at another location, the Bounty Hunter Guild. In a certain room, a hunter was staring at the talisman in his hand. Who would have thought that they would use me? Sir Wraith Lord sure is willing to spend a lot. He appeared contemplative. Suddenly, another talisman appeared out of thin air and hovered in front of him. A low voice resounded. He accepted the number 337 mission. After saying so, the talisman began to burn and quickly turned to ash. The hunter pondered for a bit. The number 337 mission seems to be a large-scale interworld mission. A mere unsolvable rank evil creature actually dared to accept such a mission. According to our intelligence, this person is a prideful and arrogant individual. But if Elder Dew really was killed by him, then I really have to be careful. The hunter appeared a bit hesitant. He grabbed his weapon, pushed the door open, and headed towards the quest hall. Fine, for me, being able to return to the Wraith Realm is good news. If there's even the slightest anomaly, I'll kill you. The apocalypse. The apocalypse. The gloom, forest world. A streak of light descended from the sky. Boom! A deep crater was formed on the ground. Gu Qingshan walked out from it. Ah, this place must be very far away from Void City. He endured the dizziness and lightly rubbed his temples. The closer the teleportation, the more stable it would be. If the distance was very far, even powerful professionists would feel uncomfortable, perhaps even being unable to precisely control the power of the teleportation would cause damage on the other side. Gu Qingshan observed his surroundings. This was a mountain forest, and the place where he appeared was near a small stream. His surroundings were filled with lush greenery. Gu Qingshan walked up to the stream, casually scooped up some water, and took a sip, clear and sweet. Sure enough, the apocalypse here has only just begun, so it naturally hasn't been damaged yet. Gu Qingshan released his powerful inner sight to scan his surroundings for several 10,000 miles. Very quickly, he discovered a human village in the southwest direction. Gu Qingshan's figure flashed and activated ground shrink. He directly appeared in front of the village. Silence. There was no one here. A line of glowing text suddenly appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face, the end of the sandstorm has sensed you. The first destruction has begun. Instantly, a gust of yellow sand was carried by the wind from the village. Gu Qingshan didn't move. The sandstorm gathered about 10 meters in front of him, manifesting as a warrior wielding a large shield and spear. Why aren't you running? Don't you know that once you're caught by this sandstorm, you'll fall into eternal despair? The warrior looked at Gu Qingshan and doubtfully asked. As Gu Qingshan was about to answer, the warrior had already rushed forward. A cold gleam flashed. Sha! The warrior was instantly cut in half, scattered into the sandstorm, and slowly faded away. His long sigh resounded from the void of space. It's useless, you'll eventually lose, and being assimilated by the apocalypse is only a matter of time. Gu Qingshan shook his head. That's not necessarily true. I'm actually quite familiar with the apocalypse. He let go of the Chao Yin sword, letting it disappear into the void of space, then took out the earth sword. How do we fight? The earth sword's mountainous heavy voice resounded. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then replied, There's no one left in this village, so we'll have to make it harmless. He raised the earth sword up high and reminded it, Pay attention to your strength. I've already signed a covenant to not destroy this world, the earth sword replied. Are you kidding me? Veterans like us always pay attention to strength and technique, a youngster like you. Tisk. Gu Qingshan couldn't be bothered with it, gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, and swung it down. A vast and majestic sword projection descended, engulfing the entire village. Boom! The sky fell and the earth cracked. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1381. Up ahead. The village had been completely erased from the surface of the earth. Gu Qingshan sheathed his sword and stood still. According to the known information, a sealed-class apocalypse had broken out in the Gloom Galaxy. A large number of combatants had now been stationed in the various worlds of this galaxy, preparing to either destroy or seal this apocalypse. He took out his ID card and lightly pressed it. A flash of light emerged from the ID card and manifested in a text in the air. Frowny Face Hitman, codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Your mission is to search the Gloom Forest world and kill the monsters inside if you encounter an apocalypse. This is a free-for-all mission. Please do your best to kill the monsters. That doesn't sound too hard. But if I want to rely on this mission to increase my rank, I'll need to perform well. Gu Qing-shan silently thought, raised his hand, and clenched it. Blessings of the past worlds. This was the acknowledgement he received, as well as his method of communicating with the world. With this method, the world should be able to sense him, communicate with him, and fight against the apocalypse together with him. Gu Qing-shan silently waited. A few moments later, no supernatural phenomena occurred, nor did he hear any whispers. While Gu Qing-shan was feeling surprised, his expression abruptly changed. A surge of surging yellow sand rose from the ground in front of them, riding the strong winds and forming a crazy sandstorm. In the blink of an eye, the intense wind had arrived and completely enveloped him. Layers upon layers of sand obscured the sky, causing Gu Qing-shan to feel his surroundings turning dark. What exactly is going on? I was clearly trying to summon the world spirit. So why did this apocalypse come instead of the world spirit? He stood in the middle of the sandstorm, wielding his sword without moving. A second later, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. Frowny Face, the UI, has not sensed the existence of the world spirit. Concluded, the world spirit has perished. Following this, each of your summons will trigger the apocalypse's attack. The end of the sandstorm has sensed you. The second destruction has begun. Gu Qing-shan was a bit surprised, then felt a chill in his heart. This isn't right. According to the mission report, this was a large-scale sealed apocalypse. A sealed-class apocalypse was an apocalypse that living beings could resist, destroy, or seal away. How could an apocalypse of this level wipe out the will of the entire world? Many worlds destroyed by the apocalypse would still leave behind remnant wills. Speaking of which, Gu Qing-shan had never seen an apocalypse that could directly erase the will of a world. It seemed like a shadow was quietly spreading in his heart. But now he had to get through this obstacle before him first. Gu Qing-shan took a deep breath, holding the twin swords heaven and earth with both hands. She stood in the middle of the sandstorm and waited quietly. The next second, amidst the sandstorm, a portion of the sand gathered and turned into a fully armored knight riding on a warhorse. I have awakened from the depths of the apocalypse, bringing a soul with me into a deep slumber of nothingness, the knight said blankly. Gu Qing-shan held her sword without moving, quietly feeling the energy waves coming from her opponent's body. Compared to the soldier from before, this knight's aura was several times stronger. Gu Qing-shan's eyes flickered a bit and asked, "Are you alive or dead?" The knight pointed his sword at Gu Qing-shan and replied, "When the apocalypse has stripped you of everything, you will realize that life and death are nothing but laughable lies." Just like the defense you've been relying on. Following his explanation, Gu Qing-shan abruptly looked down, only to see that the assassin leather armor she was wearing had instantly turned into a thin layer of sand that scattered with the wind. What? Gu Qing-shan was shocked. This leather armor was a high-grade assassin armor. With its defense, she would be able to focus on killing in battle. However, with just a single sentence from the other party, the leather armor turned into sand and disappeared. No, this level of power is definitely not a sealed-class apocalypse. Gu Qing-shan's heart felt heavy. In the void of space, a line of glowing text quickly scrolled past the war god. UI, Frowny Face, the end of the sandstorm has corroded one of your defensive equipment. Attention, you have lost your defensive equipment. The battle has begun. The knight spurred his horse forward and slowly sped up. Almost in the blink of an eye, his charging speed had increased. The knight wielded his sword and followed the horse's speed, turning into a blurred image as he charged straight at Gu Qing-shan. It was too fast. I couldn't even see it clearly. Gu Shan's gaze became sharp, stepped forward, and raised her sword to meet the knight. The knight was fast, but Gu Shan's sword was faster. The two swords clashed. Ki! With an ear-splitting noise, the earth sword blocked the knight's sword. Retreat! With a shout, Gu Shan sent both the man and his horse flying into the air. Offense and defense had switched positions. In that split second, Gu Shan charged forward like a shadow. The heaven sword in her other hand gave off a cold gleam. The knight couldn't help but wield his sword with both hands to block Gu Shan's first strike. The two swords clashed again. Without waiting for the knight to react, a second strike that was even more powerful, and a third strike. While it took a long time to describe, the entire process happened in the blink of an eye. All swordsmanship, all strategies, nothing could compare to the word fast. Each strike was faster and more powerful than the last. In the blink of an eye, 3 consecutive strikes had slashed the knight and his horse to the ground. Boom! The enemy crashed into the ground. The horse neighed, turned into sandstorm, and disappeared without a trace. The knight struggled to stand up, staring at Gu Shan. What kind of swordsmanship was that? He asked. Parrying swordsmanship. Heaven interception, Gu Shan replied. Good swordsmanship, the knight praised. Of course it's a good swordsmanship. If you're willing to turn your back on the apocalypse, I'll teach you, Gu Shan replied. The knight fell silent. His body was slowly peeled off into pieces of sand, falling into the wind. What exactly are you? Gu Shan asked in a low voice. The knight didn't answer him, only muttering in a low voice. Life. How laughable. He completely scattered into the sandstorm, disappearing from Gu Shan's sight. The sandstorm around Gu Shan slowly stopped. A line of glowing text appeared from the void of space. Frowny face, the apocalypse's second attempt to destroy you has failed. Gu Shan was a bit confused and couldn't help but ask, what kind of apocalypse is this? The war, God UI replied. Insufficient information. We only know that it's a sandstorm-type apocalypse, currently similar to Sandstorm's End. Currently? Please explain clearly. The Sandstorm's End is an unsolvable apocalypse, but it has the ability to grow. No one knows how far it will grow. Unsolvable. Grow. Gu Shan's heart sank. This was different from Void City's assessment. Perhaps because it had only just come into contact with this apocalypse, it was still very easy to fight against, which was why Void City deemed it to be a sealed apocalypse. In truth, an apocalypse wasn't a level 4 apocalypse, because very few people knew about the level 4 unknowable apocalypse. Most people had never even seen one before. Normally speaking, the 3 levels of apocalypse represented the majority of apocalypses that had ever appeared. Against a sealed apocalypse, people could still try to win against it. Against an unsolvable apocalypse, the only thing they could do was to save as many lives and resources as possible, fighting while retreating to find a way to escape. Unlivable apocalypse. In history, no one had ever survived such an apocalypse. This time, it was already an unsolvable apocalypse that had the ability to grow. This made one's heart tighten, and the will of this world had already been erased. Gu Shan's expression was grim as his thoughts churned. All of a sudden, he noticed something and hurriedly took out his ID card. A screen of light appeared from the ID card and turned into the latest information. Frowny face, attention, all mission participants. The Gloom Galaxy's apocalypse has been evaluated once again, confirmed to be unsolvable from sealed. All mission details have been changed. Please click your ID card to view your mission. Gu Shan tapped his ID card. Lines of quests had already appeared for him. Hitman codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Please hurry to Gloom Flame Village, approximately 26,000 kilometers north of here, as soon as possible and participate in the village's defense. Gu Shan looked through it again and again, then put his ID card away. His mood was a bit heavy. The free combat mission had been changed to a village's defense. The apocalypse is growing too quickly, and there's too little information, so I still don't know how to deal with it. Will it become an unlivable apocalypse? Gu Shan looked towards the north, and stayed silent for a few moments. Unsolvable. It's impossible to do anything about it. I wonder how many people would be able to survive this unsolvable apocalypse. Guqin Shan thought for a bit, then took out a colorful rooster from his chest pocket. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.